Okay, we'll get started. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order at 10:02. Before we get into the full meeting agenda for the August 15, 2024 Chicago Plan Commission meeting, I want to quickly provide guidance to those who want to provide testimony on the cases presented for public hearing today. A few of you may have already submitted forms electronically, but for anyone else who may wish to testify before the Plan Commission, please fill out the sheets located on the table where you enter the room. Please include your full name, address, if you're for or against the proposal, and if you're here representing yourself or an organization. Please hand your sheets to one of the staff members. People who have completed forms will be called on after each item is presented. Thank you. Out of respect for other speakers, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Please line up at the microphone behind me to the left in the order I call your names, and please do not read comments that have already been made by previous speakers. The public comment portion of the meeting is not a question and answer session of staff or the applicant, but an opportunity for attendees to voice their opinions on a particular proposal. Out of respect for others, please do not interrupt or disrupt the speakers. Any individual who disrupts the presentation or any subsequent comment session may be asked to leave the council chambers, or if necessary, may be escorted out by security. We will now call the roll. Commissioner Barclay. Here. Commissioner Boatwright. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Brooks. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Brumfield. Not here. Commissioner Carney. Not here. Commissioner Castañeda. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Dowell. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Escareño. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Flores. Here. Commissioner Johnson. Not here. Commissioner Galakia. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Laspata. Not here. Commissioner Lyons. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Murphy. Not here. Commissioner Piñeiro. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez Tata. Here. Commissioner Reyes. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Soto. Here. Commissioner Cicho Lopez. Here. Commissioner Esposito. Here. Commissioner Tillman. Here. Thank you. And Commissioner Villegas. Not here. We will now approve the minutes from the July 18, 2021 regularly scheduled Plan Commission meeting. The minutes were distributed prior to today's hearing. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the regularly scheduled meeting of the Chicago Plan Commission held on July 18, 2024?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Galakia, second by Commissioner Boatwright. Roll call vote. Commissioner Boatwright, can you? Yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Castañeda.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dowell.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Escareño.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores. Yes. Commissioner Galakia.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lyons.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Piñeiro.
Here.
Thank you. It's a yes or no.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes. Abstention. Okay, thank you. Abstained. Commissioner Tillman. Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. Just a reminder, as we have returned to in-person hearings, we will take public comments for the items on the agenda after each item has been presented. If you have not already done so and you wish to speak on an item, please complete a testimony slip available at the back of the chamber. Staff members are available to assist if needed and will collect the forms from you. Next on the agenda are matters submitted in accordance with the Interagency Planning Referral Act. Do I have a motion to approve item number C1 listed under the disposition heading?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Boatwright, second by Commissioner Escareño. Roll call vote. Commissioner Boatwright? Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Castañeda?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dowell?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Escareño?
Yes.
Thank you. And let the record reflect that Commissioner Spata is in attendance. Commissioner Flores and Commissioner Brumfield, thank you. Commissioner Galakia?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Laspata?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Pinheiro?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Frumfield, do you want to vote on this?
Yes.
Thank you. It's for the omnibus items.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Motion passes. Now we will move on to the public hearing presentation portion for matters submitted in accordance with the Lake Michigan and Chicago Lakefront Protection Ordinance and or the Chicago zoning ordinance. With a reminder that items. Any different items? The first item listed today is listed as D1. A proposed resolution to adopt the Inglewood Agro Eco District Land Use Plan. The plan identifies future land uses for the general area within a quarter mile of the proposed Inglewood Nature Trail. Initiated in the spring of 2022, the plan is based on 8 guiding principles and includes unique goals, objectives, and zoning recommendations for 6 land use categories. The plan was presented here in June as an informational presentation, and staff returns today to seek adoption. Kathy will provide the context overview and present the proposed plan. Are we ready?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Good morning, Kathy Dickett, Deputy Commissioner for Department of Planning and Development, and I'm joined here with Anton Seals of Pro Greater Inglewood, which was part of the consultant team. So I'll do just a very brief presentation, and I'm going to turn it over to Anton to really talk about the engagement process that we went through. So again, we presented in June. We're back here for adoption. All right, where's the, how do we move this?
Bottom arrow, hit escape.
Bottom arrow not working. All right.
There it is.
Oh, over here. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. Yeah, it's not, sorry, but it's moving. I did try to. Okay. Okay, we'll try that guy then. All right, so the plan was eight guiding principles were developed as part of the plan. So the 2 things I'm gonna really just focus on again are what the resolution entails, which is adoption of the guiding principles developed through a community process that led the work and is reflected in the work. And they are community first, strength, health and security, stabilize, pathways for work and wealth, Army as a political act, heart rooted in local culture, and design for the community. So those are the principles. Which inform the land use plan. And this is really the future vision for the area around the 1.75 mile Inglewood Nature Trail, which is illustrated on the map in the green dotted line. That is as under phase 2 design engineering, which is what CDOT does to get to the final design. Construction is anticipated in the fall of 2026. So DPD started working on the land use plan to make sure that we were understanding the impacts of this large green infrastructure on the land around it. And the plan reflects the vision to go along with that plan. So of course, we have 6 land uses, public parks, of which there are already 3 owned by the Park District here, and the trail would be envisioned as also 1. Agricultural sites, which have been started being developed along the trail but in 2008. So there's a collection of those growing home as well as Pro Greater Inglewood owns property and manages farms there. In pink, you see the neighborhood commercial centers. So these are areas basically along the arterials. And they are a mix of, they could be they're mostly commercial potentially, but also could be residential. We also show in purple, small and local production. You see that primarily on the eastern edge. There's a little in the middle, which is already existing, but the small local production on the east is envisioned to be more really aligned with food production. There are some residential parcels here, very large ones you will see, they're in yellow, particularly along Racine at the old Bon Temps closed school. On the north side of the trail and also on the north side of the trail at the eastern end where the trail comes down to grade. And then in the middle is a mixed use, we're calling it a mixed use area, and it's on the map. It's kind of a light green and it's also got a hash on it. And that is an area where the city has started to develop an environmental remediation plan for this land, which was primarily manufacturing and lead, once owned by National Lead. So that will be an $8.5 million cleanup, which is underway. We called it mixed use development. It's all owned by the city because that will be its own project when it's ready someday at One Collective. So those are the land use categories that were developed through the planning process. And we've also provided a zoning guide. So that zoning, this body does not adopt the zoning, but we have provided a zoning guide for each of those land use categories that we've discussed in detail with the alders, and the alders would be in a position to then start changing the zoning, introducing ordinances to change the zoning. And both Alderman Lopez and Alderman Coleman are inclined to do that as soon as possible. And so you can see we have a nice little guide here. There's a land use, it's a description, and then that it's not just one zoning category, but a range of zoning categories that would reflect those broad land uses. So the land use plan is what is also up in for adoption, the resolution. So just to overview where this is one piece of a much larger project. So today, before you again is a land use plan, the Agro-Eco District Land Use Plan, which has a zoning guide. The Inglewood Nature Trail, CDOT is leading that. It's approximately $90 million project, local, state, and federal grants. They are undertaking phase 2 engineering, which just started this year. And I would also note that Grow Greater Inglewood is also part of that consulting team to provide engagement as that process moves forward, which is probably going to be about another 18 months. Construction scheduled for, like I said, sometime in fall 26. I mentioned we call it the Troop Street Cluster Environmental Remediation. That is funded. We will start really engagement about what environmental remediation means and what the options are for that this fall. We've been working with the alder in the community to get local contractors to fence it and also to create signage on this large site. And I'm going to turn it over to Anton in a minute here, but community plans, Grow Greater Inglewood, in addition to what they were doing for the Department of Planning, they also were developing some community plans. The compact he will speak about, because this will be happening for quite a while. This is a large project that the community and the alders will be working on for 5 to 10 years. So I'm going to turn over to Anton. He can introduce the team that you brought with you.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right, well, this is quite a smaller room than we thought. But first, before I want to just give, all thanks and praises to the consultant team, Grow Greater Inglewood, and all of our block stewards that are here that came, a fraction, some of our board members are here. So please give one, I'm going to probably go a little bit off script, and just in terms of like the process in which we created is to make sure that the community, which has also been in partnership with the city, it is a way, it took us a while to get there.
Yes, it did.
To make sure that the community, and we want to use this as something to lift up, that is no longer just seen as a byproduct of development. It cannot be a byproduct as an add-on when you're coming into a community. The experts are here in the community who live there. What we have gone through in the last 2 years is the kind of education and awareness, so that now they also understand what we're talking about when we talk about land use plan, when we're talking about resiliency. There's a different sense of ownership. So it is beyond just community engagement. It is around a community commitment, and those developers that will come to Inglewood would have to be committed to these kind of values that we've laid out in the country. That it is not the inverse, that they get to come in and make money and just extract. So that's a big part of what we've been able to do, co-governance with the city of Chicago. I would just also like to say, just in terms of like this, marks a very important milestone for us to bring more life to the heart of Chicago. Inglewood is the heart of Chicago. It is an epicenter where we're building community now and for the future for Black residents. You know, we have been leaving at an alarming rate. We need a case to have folks to live in these communities. For us, we see this as an interpretation to make sure that we're grounding Black culture in our community, and that means that we are a welcoming community. We are, in particular, a Black and brown solidarity in our community, for sure. That is because we are also people who are the earth stewards who take care and tend to the land. So it's not just about the built environment, it's also about healing the land in our community and in this city. As we continue to advocate for spaces that we own and build, this land use plan is critical in creating a blueprint for the future development. And we know that there's a wide variety of different kind of uses that are there. This agro-eco district is something that is very unique across the country. We are involved with national networks like the Highline Network that we are proud to be a part of, who are doing these kind of infrastructure reuse projects across the country. This one stands out and above because it is situated within a neighborhood and seeks to make sure to replenish that neighborhood from the damages of divestment and looking at how we really reinvest in that the community owns and controls the narrative in their own communities. Our mantra is we deserve beautiful spaces. It isn't just about the surface beauty, it's the beauty of the collective transforming some bad lemons into the best refreshing lemonade. This is an opportunity to address broken bureaucratic functions that continue to impede Black citizens' full access to what we are creating, to stop the ongoing degradation in our community from the kind of parasites that just want to come in and make money, but not really love or respect us as a community. And we are not alone. This is why we continue to organize, listen, build, connect, and protect the interests of Inglewood residents. We want to make sure that there are more Black-owned companies that are getting contracts to build in our community. This is something that will be ongoing, that $90 million. That will be a process. And the success is not all the way, we haven't gotten the gold star yet. So we are still on that path. Also, lastly, what I would talk about in part of this land use plan as a tandem is the community repair compact. So what we've seen as an organizer is oftentimes people come in with a development and then they think about a community benefits agreement. What we are saying is that we need on the front end a compact that if you come into the community, these are the laid out structures in which we like to see you participate in our community. And some of the pieces you see here in terms of mobility, sustaining green resilience, job, workforce and education, public safety, economic wealth building, and one that's missing there, which is housing, big piece around housing. So this is an ongoing reparative framework that we will continue to adjust. And so this won't be the last time you see us here advocating and making sure that we make Chicago, in particular Inglewood, a shining example for all to kind of look at and model. So we are really excited around getting this land use plan because this is our way to help create a more sustainable and address public health issues that we're dealing with in terms of the degradation that is happening, the kind of scrap metal, all kinds of stuff is happening in the neighborhood. It's not good for air quality. It's not good for residents. And we're trying to address this huge life expectancy gap that exists in our city. And Inglewood is that 10-year gap. So we will see this as a success when we are able as a city to come back in 10 years and say that we've been able to decrease that and also increase the amount of Black folks who live in that. So thank you all for taking your time to listen to our spiel today. And we are excited around, and field any questions.
Is your water copy?
No, that's it.
That's it, okay. We do have a few speakers signed up to speak on this item. And no need to line up anywhere because we don't have a specific microphone. We have microphones hanging from the ceiling and it will pick up your sound. So just speak where you are. Erica Allen is our first speaker, who's for the proposal, followed by Karen Shine. Then we have Carlos Prince and Jay Reddy. Erica?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm so excited about this. This has been so many years in the making and really, speaks to the work of the department, of the city, and of course, Anton, all of the GGE staff, board members, supporters, community. It's just been I'm on the board of GGE and Grow Greater Englewood, and It's been a really important journey to be able to really talk about the importance of having safe spaces that the community stewards, that we're able to create beauty, that we're able to create safety for our young people and our elders and everybody else in between, and that we can do that in verdant, safe spaces. We know our city has a lot of contamination. I'll be coming up in a minute to help talk about why we need important fertility that can really remediate the long-standing issues on our empty lots and within our spaces. So looking at this not only as an environmental climate change opportunity, but also as a way to really set things right, to be on the path of justice around how we're, comprehensively developing our neighborhoods. And I just appreciate your leadership, Anton. Just for the committee members, third generation Englewood, we go deep.
Yep.
And we're serious about this transformation and making sure that wealth stays in our communities and that we actually can be the beneficiaries of that. I say that collectively, and we all know in the city that there are big discrepancies around wealth and life expectancies. And this project really exemplifies what we can do when we put our resources, 90 million plus, towards this justice and repair. And it is reparations work. So I just appreciate this, and wholeheartedly, as a very seasoned elder in the urban agriculture and community food systems movement, and also here in Chicago and nationally, that this is just a historically important project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Next we have Carlos Prince. That's not the item. Okay, just not read. Then lastly, we have Jay Reddy.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Jay Reddy, I'm president of a nonprofit called Neighborscapes that operates housing in the Englewood neighborhood. A couple $1 million invested to house young adults who do community service and AmeriCorps work. We have an AmeriCorps Conservation Corps and Vista Housing Justice Organizers starting in the next month. And we're very much in favor of the proposal because of the way it lays out a coordinated plan for the neighborhood. It's nice to see that the commissioner's not the only one in the room with a bicycle helmet, a dedicated bike rider, and looking forward to coming through the heart of Englewood on a bicycle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions of the staff or the applicant on this item?
You called it Karen Shine. and you don't want to-
No, it's for another item. Yeah. Thank you. Let's start with Commissioner Casale.
So I guess it's more comments than questions because I'll ask you a couple of questions. I believe in the plan. I believe in you. I believe in Grow Greater Englewood, going back to the work that we did with Friends of the Box together. I know the power of a trail and a resource like this, because I feel like I lived a version of this in the past. Through the 606, through the Bloomingdale Trail. And I know how a resource like that makes the unthinkable thinkable in ways that are profound and also sometimes outside of our intended purposes. I feel like a trail like this is going to attract investment. Investment that your community might have thought unthinkable decades prior. But I also know, and it will create wealth. I think who the wealth accrues to is the question.
Yeah.
To make sure you're not just seeing increased property values, but that is accruing to longtime residents of Englewood. When we talk about improving a life expectancy gap, certainly that area of Logan Square and Humboldt Park has experienced an increase in life expectancy. But gentrification cannot be a public health tool. If the way we achieve those benefits is by those who were poor and disinvested being moved out of our community, that is not a public health solution. So I feel encouraged by the plan, and I also would encourage our residents who are here, who are not in the room, to know that this is the start of it, to making sure that this plan comes with community control and protections in terms of Who owns the land? Who benefits from that ownership? Who is creating the small businesses in the area? Does this make sense? I feel like I'm speaking to you.
Well, I mean, so.
10 years in the future, that could have gone a different way on the northwest side.
So our community repair compact, we go back, is to address just what you're talking about. And in the interim, it's nothing like the Bloomingdale Trail. Inglewood is nothing like Logan Square or Humboldt Park. The amount of vacant land, we will be at this for a very long time. There are acres and acres of lots that are vacant. What has happened in Inglewood, when the community transformed, our dear sister Tanika talks about it in terms of the kind of scams, schemes, and pillage of Black wealth that happened over the last 70 years in our city that was allowed to happen. The removal of all of the kind of industrial corridors from the community, the shopping district disappearing. So we're from the neighborhood. We know our people, our grandparents, like we are those people. So one of the things that we're not gonna do is just wait. So part of it is the education. So we have a community control school. We created a community land trust in the neighborhood. There are tools that are out there now. You cannot control the entire market. No one in the community is that naive. But when you start talking to people who have been in these communities, who have gone through every public scourge, that when people talk about it, I'm across this city all over the place. And what is done is criminal across the South Side. And there have been beneficiaries who sit quietly, who benefit still today. So one of the things that we're working on is to make sure, like, what does that control really look like? It sounds good, but in order to put these things in work takes a lot of these kind of meetings. But part of it is that people are engaged and want to be part of the process themselves to figure that out. And then we can share that knowledge. So you have market forces that want to come in that make money. You get that as part of the American fabric. But there's also another fabric in terms of like another way that we see how we can grow and develop as a Black community. And that is very much needed in these times and days. So some of the toolkit is not created yet. And this is why we created a whole compact. Because you can't just have a one-off ordinance. The 606 ordinance is great, but only addresses one element.
Yes.
Right? And it's addressing housing. We have housing issues. We have public health issues. We have education issues. Everything that you all talk about in this city, you always point back to Inglewood because we're at the bottom of a lot of the data sets around what's wrong with the city. But this is saying from the residents that we see the future of our city for our children. And so we're not going to wait on other politicians. Politicians come from the community. So I think in the city it's been mixed up in terms of politicians, the community, in particular when it is acknowledged, when it is knowledgeable and organized, it can make a difference.
Yeah.
And it works in tandem. So we appreciate that. These are things that we've been talking about and we'll continue to talk about because whatever tool we create has to be flexible and to meet the neighborhood is changing now. Right? And so what we're not going to allow is to allow Black folks to be pitted against our Latino brothers and sisters who are moving in. That's what's happening. Right? So there's got to be other ways. This is the long going work that we have to create in our city to create Chicago for the future. And the young people, the old people are there. They want to be able to center what we pay for as Black people in our community. It cannot be erased and forgotten about. But that does not mean that we are angry or mad at other people who are moving in. And that's a conversation that continues to have to happen in our communities across the city. So I think that helps you kind of get a gist of like the level of like who we keep it open. Inglewood, West Inglewood is a huge neighborhood. You know, and it's lost tons of population over the years. So there's been a huge push to like bring new housing. But you cannot bring new housing until you make whole the people who live there, who can't get a loan to fix up their house and they've been there 70 years. You cannot use the public coffers to do that. And that's what this compact and some of the work that we're doing is to address that it can't just be shellacked on because the city has land, we want to build new houses. That does not benefit the residents, that benefits developers. And the development of that framework is off. So that's that's gonna be the ongoing work then.
I really appreciate it, and I'll just say, I hope you know my comments come from a place of solidarity.
Oh,
rather than skepticism. Yes. Like, we're not here to vote and then just set it and forget it, like,
No.
this is us, hopefully as a commission, and also those of us who serve in positions of public power to operate in solidarity in the implementation and the accountability to make sure that this plan achieves the vision that comes from inside of your community rather than outside of it.
Yeah, and I hope you understand the temperature of my voice is because our community has been beyond, beyond. As Black people who have helped create the wealth in this country, who fled the South, who settled in Chicago and then it is beyond. So there are narratives of people who have stuck it through, who still get stepped on and labeled, things that are completely untrue. So part of this is like, there are people who participate, there are people doing everything they can in this country to make this a better place. And so it's just important for people in these bodies to remember that's the temperature.
Always bring the temperature. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dowell, followed by Commissioner Sicho Lopez and Commissioner, Pinheiro.
Yes, I'll be brief. First, I want to acknowledge Erica and thank you for your leadership in this area for a very long time. And I want to also commend and congratulate Anton, who I've known a long time, and the community for bringing this plan forward. Paradigm shifts are really difficult. And I appreciate that. I feel that there is a paradigm shift going on in Inglewood, which people are watching. And so I just want to encourage the community to stick together and support Anton and Erica and other leaders that you have as you go through this process, because people are going to be trying to break apart a paradigm shift that is going to benefit the community. So I think it's important that people stick together. I think lastly, I just want you to keep your focus on the land. The land is the key. And a lot of times what I find is that sometimes we give up on our land because we don't see a future in it. And we think the grass is greener someplace else. But the grass is green in our communities,
Yes,
and
it
we
is.
have to hold on to it. And so I just want to congratulate you, Anton. I have known you a long time. And I'm glad to see. Well, you had hair on your head. I'm so glad to see that the positivity that's coming out of Inglewood today. And I want to thank you and the community and just congratulate you again. I'm voting yes on this.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just I'll be brief as well. I think Alderwoman Dowell already said some of the thoughts that I also had. It takes a village, and definitely I appreciate the collective efforts that you're putting into that. I will be voting yes, and again, I commend you for the thoughtfulness and the determination. These are projects that take a long time, and oftentimes, especially from the government side, we don't see the kind of support that is needed in the community. So I appreciate all the efforts that you have made. And my question is in light of that, how can we in the city help? I like the idea of the land trust, the community land trust, and how it connects with these initiatives. I hear also about the housing work that is happening. I'm glad to see some level of federal involvement with AmeriCorps and Vista programs. I do think that is the level of collaboration that we need from the different levels of government to create employment and housing opportunities with the community in mind and the community driving this. So I really appreciate the framework. I will be voting yes. And my only question again is just if we can expand a little bit. My area mainly focuses on housing. So I'd like to see how we can help make this a successful project. It definitely has all the elements. And I do think the city should contribute and help in any way we can. So in terms of land trust and anything else that you see that we can be helpful, how can the city can be of help to make sure that this is a successful project?
Yeah, so thank you, Alderman. I know a lot of Alderman first day, so I'll make sure to call you out, not in your proper way, but the answer to that question is how you guys can help. I think, for us, I have to first acknowledge, the Department of Planning and Development, particularly Kathy and her team, which started very acrimoniously as a community advocating to have the resources around this thing become a real thing. And I was part of a quality of life plan that goes back to 2005. I think we have already been in conversation with our new commissioner of the planning, Sierra Boatwright, who is, a great supporter of, and we've been working with you all. So part of the things are that, the language doesn't always exist. And some of so like I believe it's the Cut the Tape initiative that you all are working on, would be, because it gets down to those kind of detailed things in which the community can and cannot do. So, I mean, this is very nuanced. It takes a lot of time. And this is where education comes in, because oftentimes it's seen as like, if I put this in, it should just come out like this. But that is not the case. And part of that has not been shared with the community around this journey. That is what has been different here. We are on a learning journey together. So there are going to be multiple ordinances that we would propose that would come out to say, this is how you should help protect us, right? And we're not alone. There is a network, there's a wisdom circle from Teamwork Inglewood to Imagine Inglewood If, to Growing Home, to Inglewood Branded, to Think Outside of the Block, to Dion's Dream. And the thing I really love about Inglewood Unblocked is that there's a network, a village of us, to your point, of us finding our own resilience within ourselves, that we can take this on and we can do it. And that is the first step, that if you don't believe that you can do it, and then we reflect that back to the community, our young people, look at us. We have young people on staff, but youth is fleeting. You will be older soon. Right? So now they have the experience of going through and then being part of a democracy, which means that you have to participate. And sometimes there is friction, but I think what we've learned through this process is that many of people who are in government, they want to see the best happen as well. It's just that their tool set, well, once you don't usually know this as a community, is very limited. You might have 3 people for the entire city. You're like, oh, that's why I made some things fall between the cracks, because there's only 3 people for 3 million people, right? That doesn't give them an out, right? But it helps to kind of level the kind of nuance around, like, these things take time. So we do have, I mean, this is part of what we're looking at the land as the first kind of step. The cleanup of the land is super important for us. They're trying to have the right kind of businesses kind of relocate. So all of those kind of things will be things that we will be coming back, not necessarily to this body, but to the city. We have a great champion and 2 of our aldermen, Alderman Coleman, who has been a diehard with our project since, including herself, which this has most. And then we have just won over our 15th Ward Alderman Ray Lopez, who's also been supportive, because increasing green space is so important. It is a violence reduction strategy. We have 3 parks. The parks need more money. The violence with, like, those field houses that sit there that go unused after hours are huge potentials. So, community has voice here, and we have to just be more coordinated to thinking here through that. I hope that answers the question.
It did. Thank you.
Chairman, can I just add one thing, because Alderman Coleman just texted me.
Yes, please go ahead.
And she says, Chairman, will you please share my unwavering, and unwavering is in all caps, support for GGE. So I just wanted to say that.
Very
Perfect.
nice.
Yes. You have one more speaker signed up to speak, so we'll go back to that. Ms. Desiree Robinson.
Good morning. My name is Desiree Robinson. I'm a longtime resident of Inglewood area for at least 50 years. I'm just letting you all know that we can be in poverty, but we don't have to live in poverty. So we do deserve the beautiful spaces that we have that Anton is trying to create for us. So I am very proud. I think the sponsors who's standing behind him, and we all are standing behind him also. So we do need this. Thank you all.
Thank you. So back to Commissioner
Yeah.
Pinheiro, I think followed by Commissioner Escareno, Commissioner Lyons, right, and Commissioner Boatright. Everyone wants to speak on this.
Yeah,
for every
thank,
reason.
thank you, Madam Chair. So, I see that there's a resolution for approval, so maybe it's a question for Kathy. What unfolds, and this is very different from a lot of the projects that we see certainly in terms of the scope. So assuming that it is approved today, then what unfolds thereafter? What are the next steps? What happens, to start getting this, to, you know, fruition?
I'll do that, but you could, so from a city tools part, I'll answer and then, and back in it. So as I said, so we have the land use plan, we have a coordinated vision, there's a coordinated vision of what that land should look like. And the zoning changes, we would say, we've talked, as I said, talked to the alders about those, because one of the problems we have seen is that you have uses that are not positive for the community, because the zoning here has never been addressed in like forever, 50 years, right? So people have been able to come in as of right and do a junkyard because it's M zoning, because it was a freight line, and the land along that was, a lot of that was M. So changing that, now that's not gonna move anything right away, but it will mean the next time, or if they want to expand, the community and the alder will see these proposals and they won't be allowed to do that kind of use. That's a really important first step that can happen. And as I said, the alders are ready to do that kind of thing. And again, we're gonna be cleaning up land with a bond money. So in the middle of the site, we have 2.5 blocks that were national lead that needs to be removed. And that, you know, you're not gonna do anything on that land until that gets cleaned up. So that's gonna start, that'll probably be cleaned up by maybe the end of next year. The alderwoman is very interested in reusing the Bon Temps closed school space for housing. That's one of her priorities. The Park District is going to be actively, I would go beyond rehabilitating Moran Park, re-envisioning that park, which is very close to the trail. So those are some of the things that the city will be doing, and I'm sure Anton, he can talk about this, we'll be talking to the Department of Housing about the issues of existing residents and how people are better assisted.
And when you talk about the cleanup and some of that work, that's part of the $90 million investment?
No, that's an addition. So the $90 million is all from local and state and federal funding for out of transportation, right? So it's a trail, so it's transportation dollars. The 8.8 million is from a bond money that was set up for this kind of work. So that's local money. That's all local.
Very good, so the investment is larger than just.
So, and
Yeah, and the trail, so this is part of why we created a land use plan, because you can't just sink $90 million in a trail and not think about all the vacant land and the land uses that would abut the trail. 59th Street is still a class 2 truck route. This still sits between CSX on the western end, on Damon and Western, and Norfolk Sutherland on the eastern end. You know, and this trail has a history around that kind of, like, this is the community stepping in when that land that was taken back or given to Norfolk, depending on who you may ask. But at any rate, it did not work well for many of the residents in the community. So they expanded their intermodal yard, and part of the swap was this land that sat unused, right? And so I think that the hope at that time, this was over 10 years ago, many different mayors ago, was that, you know, we would just say that this would happen. But, you know, these things usually sit on paper, someone has to make them happen. And usually that's been done in our city, from a kind of top-down approach. And that's what's caused this kind of huge kind of gulf in terms of our disparities in our city. I think this creates another, as Alderman Dow said, a paradigm shift. So we have another 1.5 years before we are done designing. We're in the design mode now of the kind of lighting that would be up there, the benches, the different park elements. And then what we're working out with the Park District is the ongoing management. So we've been able to, as an organization, think about the resources that have been able to help support this, so that there is a stewardship management model. It's not something new in the city, that the city may not always have money, but philanthropy also has a lot of resources. Corporations have resources. This becomes a way for jobs to be generated within the community that the community can control. There are certain elements that the community won't be able to take on because they're over viaduct. So the CDOT and that they will always hold deed. So our end goal is to also have a conservancy model that then manages the space into perpetuity.
And I've just done that. That is gonna be an interdepartmental community effort of like looking towards the management. What does that look like? So that is also in the meeting next up. Because, you know, it's gonna open in 27.
Very good, thank you.
Just very quickly, again, kudos to all of you, and I so appreciate the partnerships of all the advocates, Erica, Anton, everything that we do at the Park District. We never do it alone, to your point, we're very cash short, so we do everything with partnership, and the efforts that Erica over just the many years, and these efforts really, you guys are the champions of everything that is happening in your community, so I want to just give kudos to all of you. Very excited, 3 parks really closely aligned with this trail, the reactivation, re-envisioning of these parks, and really getting people into the trail through these parks. Really looking forward to it. One question, I think we're alluding to this now, 90 million is a lot of money, but I will tell you, we're in the development world too, 90 million is not a lot of money. Right? It's a lot of money and it's wonderful. It's great to see, and kudos to everyone that came together putting that money together. I am thinking about the longer term vision. The only way that beautiful projects like this really not only become reality, but stay and remain sustainable and beautiful and really pay true tribute to community is the long-term game. So how we envision that long-term maintenance, how we work together as multiple agencies working together. When the 606 was developed, it was given to the parks for maintenance, right? And so I think thinking about where is that funding gonna come from as well? Because I've gotten very good at wherever I go, it's like, okay, where's the long-term funding for that as well? Because we want this to be successful. And just looking for all of us to continue this really strong partnership. So that this becomes a long-term, really successful project. So kudos to PPD, all the work, Commissioner Boatright for all the work. It's really about the community. So we look forward to strong partnership. I want to really be focused on that long-term. So I think we need to secure everything that's being done, but without a long-term plan and funding to support it. You know, that's what's really going to be the glue that keeps it tight for many years to come. So congratulations to everyone. And I don't know if you have any insights to maybe Kathy or you in terms of long-term planning. I know at the parks, we're thinking about that all the time for other projects as well, but any long-term thinking around that piece?
Oh, for sure. And before I even respond fully, I just want to thank the Park District, Moran Park, which has, suffered a lot of different issues over the years. Started with just a field house being reimagined. Alderman Coleman, through her leadership, was able to get even more resources. So we will have a whole redesigned new park on the trail. So those are the kind of opportunities. There's also Hermitage Park and Lindblom Park. So I also have to put on my other hat. I think nationally, there's a lot of resources that we want to support. As I mentioned, we are part of the Highline Network. I'm also a board member of the National Trust for Public Land. So I'm a park advocate. One of the things that we are really looking at is to think about how we are defining conservation, in particular urban conservation, as another tool. So we are thinking about long-term planning, what some of these models that are out there, not only in the United States, but across the world. So this project is being looked at from multiple, and part of the strength of it is to continue to organize at our base, which is the community. Because we want to bring up those next, I'm not going to be able to do this forever, but there's the Adonises and Treys, and there's going to be a whole new generation that will be, and who are earth stewards, who know how to grow food, who take care of the land, who design, who build. And so those are and who have the kind of financial acumen to put new models in place, funding mechanisms that we have to come up with. So I think this was the first step, and now we have to get, we want to do more envisioning with the Park District around what that might look like. In particular, some of the models we're seeing that have been done elsewhere and how we might tweak them for how we might do that in Chicago.
Happy to be a partner. Congratulations.
Commissioner Lyons, were you?
Yes, congratulations. I mean, this is just, it's such an honor and privilege to be here and listen to you and the incredible amount of work and the thoughtfulness and intentionality behind it. In particular, the community repair compact, I would love to hear a little bit more about in terms of keeping and building wealth for existing residents. How do you envision that working? If it's sort of an accountability tool with developers in the future? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the vision there.
Yeah, so we have just started, one of the things, we kind of laid out some of the large kind of the framework of it. So now it's, creating an action plan. And like I said before, some of this often lives outside of just Grow Greater Inglewood. So we have great partners, in particular Teamwork Inglewood, that convenes all of the partners in Inglewood. And we have a public safety. So part of, particularly around housing, our journey has been that we were taking vacant lots to create farms. When we talk to our residents, they also talked about like, yes, we want food, et cetera. We love what you're doing. However, I'm trying to hold on to my house, right? These are real issues. And so we need to create a different toolkit that does not exist. Part of the in terms of like the finite resources of cities or the priorities of where the city spends its money is a big part of like what we have to continue to push and prod. Force us to say, like, if you're talking about equity, if you're talking about justice, the liberty of these kind of communities, that we should not have a 10-year life gap in that, and then in the city anywhere. And so if we don't really double down, triple down in terms of the resources, because I know that things will get scarce. So part of the address has to be that we're not the first thing that gets trimmed as an essential thing that has to happen. We are underway with a generational shift, so we hear this a lot. There's a lot of baby boomers. I think people think of Inglewood in one large, they hear the headlines, but they don't know the families, the residents, the stories of the people who emerge from this great community. That so there will be ongoing kind of processes. You'll see us, or you'll see some of our partners as we start to really develop it into, there's some of the tools already exist. But now we're trying to really harness them into a full kind of compact. And some of that will look at kind of ordinances, things that we would have to change or introduce in order to benefit the residents in England.
Thank you.
Well,
So I just wanted to say huge kudos, huge shout out to Anton and the entire Grow Greater Inglewood team and all the stakeholders that are here standing up today, just in support of this transformative project. I want to thank Kathy and Kathy's team for just her steadfast commitments and the team's commitment. This is really an opportunity to spur development. This is definitely a game changer. When I say spur development, I mean by community for community. There's something really special about that. Alderwoman Dallas talked about the grass being greener in our neighborhood, and it absolutely is. And it's even greener where we water it. And so I think you all's commitment to doing it right and pulling all the partners in and holding the partners accountable and leveraging every tool in the toolbox. I think you're absolutely right that we've been limited for a very long time with the tools that we have, but there's a lot more tools at our disposal. And with coordination and collaboration and authentic engagement, we'll leverage each of those tools to really transform our communities to what they deserve to be. The other thing I want to say is that this is not one and done. Our team stands committed to invest and support and work hand in hand with you guys. And so know that this is not us saying, okay, we're out, we got this approved, but us continuing to work to put the vacant land back in productive use. I'm looking over at your baby because you talk about generations, right? And it's so awesome to see young generation seeing this work happen and seeing the engagement that comes from it. So I'm smiling from ear to ear because I'm so proud, I'm so excited, I'm so delighted to see the hard work, years and years. This didn't happen overnight. Years and years come to fruition. The other thing that I want to say, and it didn't go unnoticed, that every single agenda item on today's plan commission is on the south side. And so always seeing that level of planning and development and
we want development throughout our entire city. We're gonna have development throughout our entire city in every neighborhood, but it's something really special about today's agenda because it really shows that we've got stakeholders and partners that live in a community that recognize the assets and are really uplifting these assets. So congratulations to you and to everyone here and all the troops that are standing back there.
Commissioner, I would just also say, like, I think through this process, when we talk about accountability, what we've learned is that it doesn't always have to be punitive, or acrimonious only. That everyone is trying to figure this piece out together, so that, is an important kind of like, we may not always agree. But I think what we've learned is like our temperature level, like when we need to be direct, that's just really important. And I think just to kind of uplift something else you said, like, this is not a one and done. We know that will take many years. And what I also want to share is that the residents in the community for city government, invite them even more into these kind of processes because people understand the level of nuance more than we give them credit around. Like, we may not get everything right. They know that already, but they want to be at the table to say, like, we've been trying to figure this out. Not you going to the room figuring it out for us. That's a different approach. It is a paradigm shift in that sense, in terms of how government functions and how our business class functions. It's like, and we hear this often in the language, but part of that repair has to happen at this ground level because we have a lot of different kind of people in our community. So it's not a monolith, but there is a baseline. You know what I mean? People enjoy beautiful spaces. They want a safe space. They want a place that they can call home. And there's a legacy. That's what we hear most from our community. So we really appreciate the support.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Okay, not seeing any more. So even though Alderman Lopez and Alderwoman Coleman cannot be here, obviously we've heard that they're in full support of this project. So I just want to have that go on the record. So if we don't have any more questions or comments, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion on this item. Do I have a motion and a proposed resolution to adopt the Inglewood Acro Eco District Land Use Plan, finding that it meets the requirements for approval? I need two first. Thank you, Commissioner Dowell, and then a second. Commissioner. She's closer, it's easier. Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Woodwright?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. We do have a recusal from Commissioner Brumfield, who was intimately involved in this,
Where's
Plan?
Commissioner Brumfield? He was like,
yes, he wanted to be here, but he has to recuse himself. Commissioner Castañeda?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dowell?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Escareño?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores? Yes. Commissioner Cadakia?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lasada?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Piñero?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes?
Sí.
Thank you. Commissioner Sicha Lopez?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
I didn't mention that.
Yeah, right? I feel good. You good? Feel good, yeah.
You guys are all in divorce.
We've been out for since last year, so. Yeah, no, I feel good about it. Right now, it's just. The last minute changes my services.
Oh, really? So
For reasons
heard
they
about
have
that.
to, so change parking, traffic amounts. Impact.
Totally, totally.
So.
So the next item today is listed as D2. A proposed institutional plan development submitted by Sunshine Gospel Ministries and Sunshine Community Development Corporation for the property generally located at 345-79 East 60th Street, 6050 South, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, 6001 through 6049 South Calumet Avenue. The applicant is proposing to rezone the site from the RM5 Residential Multi-Unit District to B3-1 Community Shopping District, then to an institutional plan development. The rezoning would allow for the construction of a community center campus development, which will include a 3-story, 77,050 square foot building that will serve as community center, 2,000 square foot outdoor athletic facilities, and 90 on-site parking spaces that will serve applicants, visitors, guests, and employees. The proposed overall height of the planned development will be 45 feet, 6 inches. The maximum FAR of the planned development will be 0.43. And this is item 22475, and it's in the 20th ward. Yang Wang will provide the context overview and present the proposed plan.
We're gonna just pause briefly, we're trying to figure out something.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We're good?
Good morning, everyone. For the record, my name is Yang Wang, urban designer with the Department of Planning and Development. This proposed development is generally located at 345 to 79 East 60th Street, 6,000 to 50 South South Martin Luther King Drive, 6,001 to 49 South Calumet Avenue, and is located within the Washington Park community area within the 20th ward. The applicant, Sunshine Gospel Ministries and the Sunshine Community Development Corporation and their development team appear here today for the purposes of establishing an institutional plan development at the subject site.
No. Yeah, technically, never mind. It's advanced.
The proposed development is located in the Washington Park community area where the median estimated income is $26,014. This slide illustrates the aerial context looking towards south. The proposed development is bounded by East 71st Street to the south, South Calumet Avenue to the west, East 60th Street to the north, and South Martin Luther King Drive to the east. The Sunshine Gospel Ministries and the Sunshine Enterprises are located a few blocks from the site. The site highlighted in the right frame is currently zoned RM5 Residential Multi-Unit District and is owned by the City of Chicago. The surrounding zoning districts from the area are RM5 Residential Multi-Unit District, B21 Neighborhood Mixed Use District, and the POS1 Regional or Community Park. The net set area of the proposed development is 4.14 acres. This proposal is being submitted as a mandatory planned development application pursuant to section 17-8-0505 of the City of Chicago's zoning code. Planned development review and approval is required for development of land to be used for community centers on sites with a net site area of 2 acres or more. This illustrates the land use context plan. The surrounding land uses for the area are primarily residential and commercial. CICS Washington Park School is located 2 blocks to the west of the site. Washington Park is located to the northeast across from the corner of the site. The planning context includes the Washington Park Quality of Life Plan and the Woodlawn Plan Consolidation Report. The Washington Park Quality of Life Plan was published in 2009 to provide a framework for enhancing the community's overall well-being. The site is adjacent to the Woodlawn community area. The Woodlawn Plan Consolidation Report was published in 2020 with 6 strategic goals to guide development efforts. The proposed development aligns with the goals outlined in the referenced plans by incorporating key strategies and recommendations that ensure community residents directly benefit from the project. Now I will turn the presentation over to Ms. Sylvia Michels with the applicant team to introduce the proposal.
Thank you, Yandy. Good morning, Chairwoman Flores and members of the Plan Commission. My name is Sylvia Michels. I'm an attorney with the firm of Taft, Stettinius and Hollister. Along with my colleagues, Graham Grady, Braden Lord, and Kim Reed in absentia, we represent the applicant Sunshine Community Development Corporation and Sunshine Gospel Ministries. The 2 other members of applicants' teams who are present today and will be speaking are to my left, Kimberly Sally, the treasurer of Sunshine Community Development Corporation and executive director of Sunshine Gospel Ministries. And then to my right, our project architect, John Wolf of Civic Projects Architecture. Also present and available for questions from our team are, including our civil engineer, Kelsey Taylor, our traffic engineer, Javier Milan with KLOA, David Doig with Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives, and Michelle McSweeney, our project architect. We would like to acknowledge and thank Alderman Taylor, Tyra Owens, and the entire 20th Ward staff for all of their guidance and assistance through this process. As Yangi mentioned, Sunshine Community Development Corporation will acquire the property located right there on the screen, which is a city-owned property. Sunshine Community Development Corporation plans to acquire and develop the vacant city-owned property with the proposed Sunshine Community Center. Sunshine Community Development Corporation will operate the community center in tandem with Sunshine Gospel Ministries programming goals. The Sunshine Community Center will include the new 3-story building, which contains approximately 77,050 square feet. The uses included in the building include fitness center, gymnasium, cafe, meeting rooms, and a pop-up retail on the first floor, programming rooms for media and technology, youth lounge and gym viewing deck on the second floor, administrative offices, and office rental space for future tenancy on the 3rd floor. Also, the proposed campus includes outdoor multi-purpose athletic facilities and a total of 90 on-site parking spaces. Also, as John will note in the upcoming site plan, we are also vacating a 16-foot wide east-west public alley, which bisects the subject property and will be maintained as private interior access drive. This is for the safe and secure travel of the occupants and participants to travel from the building to the outdoor space. In order to proceed forward with this exciting project, the applicant is seeking a zoning amendment from the existing RM5 zoning district to an underlying B3-1 district, then to an institutional planned development. Jen, next. Thank you. I do think it's important to note the significant community outreach that Kimberly Sally and her team conducted over the last few years. So you'll see significant efforts include outreach to area residents, community pastors and groups included but not limited to the president of the Washington Park Chamber of Commerce, deans, administrators at the various high schools, Washington Park, CICS, Fisk Elementary, etc. We also, Kimberly was successful in securing letters of support from the following community groups: the Southeast Chicago Commission, Woodlawn Chamber of Commerce, to note a few. At this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to John Wolf, our project architect, for the more exciting part of this project, the architecture.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. Good morning, commissioners. I will walk through the design of the project to date. So here we're showing a photo of the existing site looking from Washington Park, and then a view of the proposed new community center at the corner of 60th and MLK. And then to go over the site plan, we've organized the building at that corner because of its high visibility in relationship to the park. And then the outdoor athletic space that Sylvia mentioned is behind the building to the west. So north is to the right on the screen. And then a 90 space parking spot on the south end of the site with access to that parking on Calumet to reduce the cut in MLK Drive and improve the pedestrian experience along the front of the building. With the location of the building at this corner, we try to kind of create a welcoming and inviting entrance as a reflection of the site across from Washington Park, and to bring people into the center of the building for all of the program and functions that were mentioned. So here's a view of the front entry, wanting to create a really highly visible, open, and welcoming space for the community and for users of Sunshine's programming. So the main lobby is where everyone would enter the building, and this connects through into the courtyard and that outdoor space, and also expands into both wings of the building. So you can see in the center where that lobby exists, extending through to the outdoor courtyard. And then to explain a little bit of the organization within the plan. The north wing of the building on the right side of the screen, and on the south wing, creating that L shape, is the 3-story structure of the community center. And then the large box with the 2 basketball courts is the gym, 2 high school regulation size basketball courts for athletic functions, for use by the community, for hosting basketball tournaments. And that'll be a 2-story volume at the gym footprint. On the first floor then, on the south wing, there are the other athletic facilities to support that gym. A weight room, multi-purpose athletic rooms for yoga, dance class, other activities. And then the north wing, we have a cafe on the first floor located right at the corner of MLK and 60th Street. For high visibility again and access, which will be open. regular business hours, breakfast, lunch, and dinner service. And then other larger community gathering spaces that will be open for rent or use for communities and different functions that then have the connection directly to the courtyard for outdoor space as well. As we move up to the second floor, the lobby space is a 2-story volume, so that monumental stair in the entry comes up and you're on a mezzanine. Views back to MLK and through to the courtyard. And both wings of the community center on the second floor are program rooms and multi-purpose spaces, which will hold a lot of Sunshine Gospel Ministries activities throughout the daytime for community members and elderly, and into the evening for after-school activities for youth. And then within the gym, there is a second floor, which will have a perimeter walking track on the outside, along with another balcony space for additional cardio and workout space. And continuing up to the third floor will be office spaces for the new home of Sunshine Gospel Ministries offices in the north wing. And then in the south wing will be Sunshine Enterprises with their office space, as well as some additional office fit out space for tenants in the future. And then moving up to the roof plan, we're showing here on the 3-story structure, we will be implementing a green roof as part of our sustainability strategy on the site. So that covers the majority of the 3-story building, with space for maintenance, access, and equipment. And then a portion of the gym roof will also have some green roof development on there. Now looking at an aerial view of the whole site again, here in yellow, we're highlighting the open space and landscaping around the site. And with the building located at the northeast corner, there is a lot of open space on the site. And we put a lot of thought into the positioning of the parking lot to allow for the landscape buffer and screening to minimize that impact on the community and the surrounding site. And then continuing to carry that landscape around the perimeter of the outdoor space and along the sidewalks. And then you can see also in the front where the building is sort of funneled in towards the entry to have some landscaping there as people are approaching the building and coming to that highly glazed entry point. And then highlighting the actual open usable green space on the site. So some areas around the parking lot, we have the green roof that I spoke about, and then largely on the west side, on the back side of the building will be 2 sport courts, basketball courts in the outdoor area, open lawn for flexibility of use, and then also a small play area or playground that will be incorporated into this space. And now I'll go through some elevations and sections, a little more technical about the building, but one of our goals with designing the exterior is to really provide high quality materials around all 4 sides of the building because of the positioning of it on site and the visibility and use. So the top view is the front elevation on MLK. So you can see the rain screen extending in towards the center to the glazed entry point. And then the second view below is the north elevation on 60th Street. So turning the corner around the right side of the building and carrying those materials all the way around. And here we see the elevation from the west, so from the open exterior space, with a view into the courtyard that's fully glazed as well to allow that visibility through the lobby. And then on the right side, the gym massing, which would be a precast concrete structure separate from the structure of the 3-story community center space. So to talk through some of the materials here with some precedent images, not exactly what will be applied to the building, but to give some reference. The gym itself would be precast concrete and we're looking to develop that aesthetically with a form liner to give it some texture and break up the solid massing of that. And then the 3-story structure will be covered with a cementitious rain screen panel, which will also have a variety of texture and color to accentuate that large massing on the 2nd and 3rd floors. And then in some of the 3D views and some of the renderings that we'll show, there will also be some aluminum vertical fins across the facade that will provide an element of color. They also will provide sun shading in some of the interior spaces and add a playful element on the exterior of the building. And then glazing at the entry that I pointed out, and then at other aspects like the street front cafe and around the building. So I have some sections here just to reference the scale and size of the 2 structures, the gym and the community center, and the heights on the interior of the building. And here's a view from MLK looking at the south side of the building, where there is a secondary entrance and exit that would be closest to the parking lot. But you can see the precast concrete of the gym, and then the materials on the community center with some of the louvers here at the corner. And another view from the interior courtyard, looking back towards that lobby space at the glazed entry, just showing the plantings and landscape within this space, allowing for seating for visitors to the cafe or guests of the community center. And then to highlight some of the specific urban design approaches that we've taken here, starting on the right side at the bottom, again, highlighting the high visibility and glazing and engagement of the cafe at the most prominent corner of the site and across from Washington Park to invite guests and users to that space. And then using the colorful shading system as a design element as we move across the facade and to create a sense of scale to the building itself. Add that outdoor space in front of the building with the entry plaza and the planters that will provide areas for rest and seating for people that are coming to the community center. And then the lobby and entry being fully glazed, being that focal point with increased lighting and visibility, kind of the beacon to invite the guests and users into the community center. And then also an element I didn't really touch on yet, but the 2nd floor overhangs at the exterior. So as you're walking along the outside of the building, you will be covered and you will have glimpses into the interior spaces through other windows as you're walking towards the main entry. So for example, you could look into the fitness space and see a dance class happening as you're walking towards the building and coming inside. Another site plan view here, just highlighting the transportation and traffic arriving to the building. So like I said, the parking lot entrance is off of Calumet on the top side of the screen, with vehicles circulating through the parking lot and then exiting back out to Calumet. And then highlighting the pedestrian entrance at the main entry along King Drive, so pulling in from both corners of the building and from the center along the sidewalk here. And then also showing a CDOT site plan here with some improved curb lines within the right of way, particularly at the entrance and exit to the parking lot, providing bump outs for traffic control. And then improving the pedestrian experience at 60th and Calumet and 60th and King Drive adjacent to the site, as well as introducing painted bike lanes in both directions on King Drive in front of the community center. Sylvia mentioned this too. We had KLOA provide a traffic study of the site. And they are here to answer specific questions, but the proposed access system, they determined was adequate in accommodating the traffic estimated by the new community center at this location. And then here highlighting the Chicago Sustainable Development Policy, which we've been reviewing with our engineers throughout the design process. We will meet the 100-point requirement as part of the plan development. We're targeting specific goals that could potentially exceed that requirement as well. And just to touch on stormwater strategy, we will be designing with our civil and landscape architect different plantings and landscape around the site, but we will provide underground detention facilities and best practices of design for water management on the site. Kelsey is here if there are any specific questions on that. And then some Axon aerial views of the entire building, just focusing to show the massing of the 3-story community center space in relationship to the gym, providing that courtyard space. And you can see the overhang at the exterior of the 2nd floor of the community center as well. And now I will pass it off to Kimberly Sally to talk through more of the benefits of the project.
Apologies, I'm gonna cut in and just do this last slide and then turn it over to Kimberly. As you can see here, there was again several community meetings with the culmination of all of the effort by Kimberly on December 22nd, 2023 was the completion of Alderman Taylor's economic development team process with a majority vote in favor of the Sunshine Community Center. Also modifications that were done at the plans based on DPD and community feedback. The planners at the northeast corner of the building provides for increased visibility and accessibility to the proposed cafe, relocation of the trash enclosure, etc. So there's the before and the after picture. And now, without any further ado, and no offense to John, but I saved the best for last, I turn the presentation over to Kimberly Sally.
Good morning, and thank you so much for your time, commissioners. This has been a dream deferred for our community. I want to fill you in a little bit more on Sunshine and then get back to the need for the center. So Sunshine Gospel Ministries has been around for 119 years. Started on the near north side as a mission to single moms. When the Cabrini Green housing was built, more of our focus became on youth and families. When Cabrini Green closed and families were displaced to various Southside communities, Sunshine moved to Woodlawn with some of our families. And so we've been there about 20 years. Part of, our sustainability is having a place-based approach when we go into communities to find out what the needs are of the community. So then sat down with the community at the time, which is now our current campus, on 61st Street between Everhart and Rhodes. On both sides of the street were abandoned buildings, and there was a lot of crime and drugs and things that were happening. And the community said, we want this cleaned up. And so we purchased the east side of the block one at a time. Took us a while to get them rehabbed. We got the north side of the block done in 2008 and the south side of the block in 2012, which is our current campus on 61st between Everhart and Rhodes. And so right now we currently run programs for youth, for families. We have a violence intervention program. We started a housing equity initiative, and we are weaving in mental health into all aspects of our programming to kind of help everyone, deal with life trauma and things that happen. And we're trying to do that in a very organic way. In our place-based approach, when we moved into the community in 2012, community residents said, we can be our own bridge over troubled water. We need access and opportunity to do some of these business ventures and things that we want to do. We have ideas. So we started Sunshine Enterprises. It was a program. Now Sunshine Enterprises is its own fiscal agency.
that graduates about 150 entrepreneurs every year for the last 10 years on various tracks, an artisan track, construction track, business, acceleration, technology. And so, with that, they usually, from that, there's about 50 businesses that actually start every year. Businesses are always looking for brick and mortar. In our communities, it's hard to find brick and mortar. And it's even harder to find a place to test your product or service before you even launch to brick and mortar. So this Sunshine Community Center will provide that opportunity. In 2014, the community said, we want a place in our own community where we can go and eat and dine. And so we have a cafe in our community. And so they also said in 2014, they wanted a community center, but that particular project did not align. It did not align at that time. And so when we found out from then, State Rep Lamont Robinson in 2021, that there were monies earmarked in the state budget for a community center in our community, we started looking into and vetting the opportunity to see if the time was now. So with that, we spent a lot of time engaged with the community. The youth in our programs, we serve about 125 young people weekly. We serve about 250 families annually through our programs. And so we started there, and then we got this team organized, which was great. And we're able to prepare ourselves to then take it to Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor and her team and have a conversation. And after we had a conversation and she advised different parcels for us to vet, we ended up landing on the parcel that we've chosen. And from there, we were able to, as the previous slide showed, have our official meeting with her team and get the green light to move things forward. So we've canvassed, we've done all kinds of things. So we are excited to say that this project, the community center, will be demographically comprehensive in its programming. The community has spoke into all facets of what you see on this slide. And so a couple of things to just highlight on there is things like a roller rink, right? In talking to the community, and it's like, there are a lot of places that may say we'll have a gym. And they were like, well, what about some of the other things that have been taken away from our communities that we don't have? And so in talking to some people, they're like, if you get the right kind of wood floor, you can have a roller skating rink. And so, looking to kind of bring back some of the things that are missing in our community, especially for our young people. They need to be introduced to that. We used to roller skate. Where's the roller skate? Those kinds of things. So really excited. They did ask for a swimming pool, but we said no. And then in looking at, workforce development, that is huge. We're actually working on that now. We just finished One Summer Chicago, but then where do those kids have employment when that program is over? And so workforce development, and since COVID, it's really crucial. We have a lot of students that graduated high school during that time, and they're wondering, they don't know, which way to go. And so we do some of that now with this community center role, for there's an opportunity to really have the space to do that and have some of these resource rooms, for media and technology, for entrepreneurial trainings. And the big part of programming that we're going to add, that we're starting to do now since we've been doing this engagement, is working with our seniors. They are a missing demographic. And actually, they could potentially be the key to kind of bridging generations and kind of sharing their legacy, right? And getting young people to understand and respect their history so that, and knowing what's happened in the past, better how to proceed moving forward. And so we're excited about that. One of the things in our communities too is that for our seniors, they don't have a heating or a cooling center in inclement weather. And so we've been fortunate, sometimes CTA buses come out and sit and give them a place to cool off, or they can go to, a library, but the community center will have a place for that as well. And then looking at food and entertainment, as I mentioned earlier, there'll be a place for those retailers, those new entrepreneurs, to set up shop and kind of test out their goods and services. And in the outdoor space, really excited about that. In the way we're kind of looking at it, it could be an outdoor, small space for our young people, and they do, their little dance recitals and other things. They could do those outside. Looking forward to having a farmer's market. There is an urban farm that's directly across the street
that we're looking to partner with so that, we can have those goods. One of our spaces will have a demonstration kitchen. We did a community-based needs assessment some years ago. And three things that came out of that were residents were looking for more access and opportunity related to mental health, nutrition, and physical fitness. And so along with this project aligning with the quality of life plan, it also aligns with a more recent needs assessment that was done to speak into what does that look like? There are lots of things in the quality of life plan, but what does that look like current day? And so we're excited about that as well. Go on to the next slide. And so in looking at the benefits, right, there'll be an economic impact as it relates to employment. We estimate about 150 construction jobs to the tune of about $3.75 million. We're working with, our general contractor is Ujama, and really excited to work with them because they really understand community. And so one of the conversations I've had with Jimmy, who's the president, is would he be willing to apprentice young people during that build? And so we've been having conversations about maybe what that could look like. Would it be great for a young person to be a part of something that's built in their community? They can look and say, I helped with that. So looking forward to that being a part of things. Facility space rental, there's always a need for that. Sunshine Enterprises, our sister organization, just did a Taste of Sunshine at Navy Pier. The goal originally was to have that within the community so that our local entrepreneurs could showcase in their communities. The date was postponed because they couldn't find a place. We were going to make it a street fair, et cetera. But like I said, that's a real current example of, needing more space. As it relates to real estate, there was a study done by DePaul that showed there's a 22% increase in property values in communities that have community centers. And, and we're also working on some housing equity things. And so in looking and talking about the housing equity, for every vacant lot on a block, it decreases the home value by $7,000. And in our communities where there are, in some cases, more vacant lots on a block than there are houses, this will definitely help from that perspective. Looking at the social impact, crime reduction is one of the big ones. Like I said, we have a violence intervention program. There was an article written, it was a 23-year study over 300 cities. And it did show that there was a major decrease in violent crimes and property crimes, et cetera. In the Washington Park community right now, there's a 1 in 9 chance that someone will be victimized in some way, physically, property, et cetera. And we do actually, we've had conversations with our district police because, we work with them with our violence intervention program, and they are heavily in support of that and feel like this will definitely make a difference. The health impact I mentioned a little bit earlier that came from the community health needs assessment that we did. And so I'm just looking at all of these collectively, right? They strengthen the community when you look at all those different components. The other thing, as it relates to, the impact of the program, I'm thinking about the arts and education. Like I said, right now we serve about 125 students, and we're usually always at capacity with a waiting list. In just year one of the community center, we feel like we can go from serving 125 to 400 young people. And in our community, there are 3 schools that are within walking distance. And the enrollment last school year was about 1,500 students. Like I said, we only serve 125, right? So there's definitely a need for more. The economic benefit, we talked about a little bit, the temporary jobs through construction. For Sunshine, and when we say Sunshine staff, meaning Sunshine Gospel Ministries and Sunshine Enterprises, we will about double our full-time staff with this community center, and definitely need upwards of 25 to 30 part-timers for operations. There's a projected 1.3 million in income tax that will be generated annually. About 25 full-time employees from our leasees And that's on the third floor where community-based organizations and others will be able to lease space. And then, as I mentioned earlier, about 50 new businesses annually start through Sunshine Enterprises Community Business Academy. And so we project that the community center will serve over 2,000 people and receive over 50,000 visits annually. Go to the next slide. As it relates to our minority business and women business enterprises, we are definitely seeking to achieve even more than the minimum of 26 percent for MBE and 6% for WBE. Like I said, as I mentioned in talking to our general contractor, looking for them to actually take on, some students as a part of kind of the workforce development. And so, a goal is more like 50% for that, as well as 50% for the local workforce. Currently on our Sunshine staff, 45% of our current staff live in the Twin Ward. Project facts, the project cost is $38.1 million. Again, 150 construction jobs and about 130 permanent jobs. As it relates to, speaking about the cost, we'll talk about our capital stack. So right now we have an agreement with the state of Illinois for $13.5 million, $7.5 million in new market tax credits, and we do have a confirmation letter from US Bank for that. 2.9 million would be private debt through Providence Bank, in which we have a pre-approval. They're just waiting for us to submit our completed 2023 audit. Then there is 900,000 environmental escrow, 658,000 estimated from TIF, netted with the land price adjustment. And then we're seeking a $5 million economic development bond, and then Sunshine Gospel Ministries has an $8 million philanthropic raise. And at this point, we have identified, and at this point, we have identified about 75% of that, about 6 million of that. And so what that breaks down to is about 3.3 million from individuals. And so we're trying to shore that up. And then we have other, we have about 17%. And the other is the Chicago Community Trust Redevelopment Fund, the ETOD grant we received. Senator Maddie Hunter has given us a financial commitment. And then the other 27%, which is about 1.6 million, will come from the sale of our current campus. Our current campus is worth about $2.5 million. Our debt on it is about 800, close to $900,000. And so that gets us to our 6 million that we've identified thus far.
See, I wasn't lying, was I? We have a letter of support from Alderman Taylor that has been submitted to DPD. I also did want to mention 2 other members of our team that were unable to be present today. Kim Morris from CNI and also Monica Chetta from also our project architect. They were very involved in bringing us here today, so I did not want to forget to mention them. Also, of course, we'd like to thank DPD and CDOT for all of their assistance through this process. They were wonderful and great to work with, so thank you. And with that, we respectfully request your favorable consideration of this project. Thank you.
For the record, again, my name is Yang Yiwang with the Department of Planning and Development. The Department of Planning and Development has reviewed the project materials submitted by the applicant, and DPD has concluded that this proposal is appropriate for this site and supports the development for the following reasons. First, the proposal complies with the planned development standards and guidelines. Second, the proposed development is compatible with the character of the surrounding area in terms of uses, density, and building scale. Third, the proposed development promotes economically beneficial development patterns that are compatible with the character of the existing neighborhood. Fourth, the proposal ensures a level of amenities appropriate to the nature and the scale of the project. Fifth, public infrastructure facilities and the city service will be adequate to serve the proposed development at the time of occupancy. Please refer to my staff report for further details regarding this project and the plans identified here today. Based on the foregoing, it's a recommendation of the zoning administrator of EPD that this application to establish an institutional planned development be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standard as such. EPD staff and the representatives from the applicant team are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie, and the team for a very informative and exciting presentation. We do have 3 speakers signed up to speak on this item, going back to Ms. Karen Shine, followed by Carlos Prince, and lastly, Laura Lynn Clausen. If you can just stand up and speak where you are.
Hi, I'm Karen Shine. I live in Washington Park, and I am very excited about this project. I am part of a nonprofit that seeks to teach children how to plant, grow, and harvest food. So I'm hoping to be part of Sunshine's proposed, all of the programming that they have there. Last night, I saw Erica at the farm, and she was telling me what was wrong with my collards and my carrots. So I said all that to say that I am surrounded by Bronzeville, Hyde Park, Woodlawn, and Englewood. So we're all connected. And having proposals and businesses, viable businesses coming to our community that we can be a part of is huge. And it brings other people, into the community. Alderwoman Dow is my alderwoman. And of course, I'm always beating down her door with proposals that we're still working on. But anyway, I just wanted to show my support for this project because Washington Park doesn't have a lot. And this is within walking distance to me, and I'm hugely excited about it. I just wanted to put forth that little tidbit.
Thank you, Ms. Shine. Ms. Prince?
Yes. I had this speech that I was going to say, but I'm so inspired by actually seeing the development of this project, right here, right up in front of me. I'm Carlos Prince. I am a resident and a business owner of 2 organizations in Woodlawn. I have Prince Realty Group, which is a real estate firm, and then Woodlawn Diversity in Action. And our biggest initiative is we host the Black Wall Street Chicago Festival. And at the festival, we're able to have 100, well, so far now, we're up to like 100 Black-owned businesses. We've had over 2,500 participants right in the Woodlawn community. And Sunshine Gospel has been one of our biggest supporters. So I'm looking to move it down to where this new facility will be. I have always been a supporter of this project from the very beginning. And being a resident, I've been able to speak with the residents of Woodlawn. I've also personally canvassed the Washington Park community. And I did that because I wanted to make sure that when I speak about this project, that it speaks to the need and the pulse of what the community is actually searching for to have. The walkability, being able to have access to what the community offers is very, very critical on the south side of Chicago, because that is something that is very limited to us to be able to have accessibility to everything that this project will offer, from the fitness center to the cafe to the office space, which I am going to utilize, so I'll give you my LOI. And also because I am an entrepreneur, I coach, I mentor. I actually was one of the instructors for Sunshine Enterprise Academy and putting on the Black Wall Street Chicago Festival. I know what entrepreneurs need, and to be able to have pop-up opportunity, because a lot of times entrepreneurs are not ready for brick and mortar, and this will help them be able to get ready for brick and mortar. This will also be able to showcase the goods and services that's really already in the community, that the residents will be able to have access to. And one other thing that I wanna note, another thing that's really important to me is the Woodlawn community and Washington Park will be able to unite together. And speaking with some of the residents in Washington Park, there's the same underlying goal, and that is to see these communities thrive and to be able to have a positive environment for the youth community and our families, to be able to connect and be empowered. So I'm hoping that you all support this. I am very excited about it, and thank you all for having me.
Thank you. Ms. Laura Lynn Clausen.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Laura Clausen. I am a resident of Woodlawn and also part of Urban Growers Collective. So we are the organization who's been developing the community garden directly across from this lot since 2019. So initially it started as part of Mayor Lightfoot's Grounds for Peace program. And as we've been engaging residents and workforce development and seniors and those with health vulnerabilities on this site to build it as a community garden, we've often looked across the street at this lot and been like, what could this be? We're so excited, like envision what this space could become, and this is it. So just thank you so much for your dedication, for your vision around the site, and we're so excited to continue to build and support with one another on this spot. And thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the commissioners, I'm sure there's a lot of comments and questions. Who would want to start? Question, Commissioner Boatright and Brooks, or I didn't hear who. Both. Okay, yes, you're next.
So exciting project, exciting to see all the progress too on the philanthropy side. One question, just in terms of your time, and I understand you're still working to fill your gap, but you're making a lot of progress. And so if there's an opportunity to kind of share your ideal construction start, your timeline, and if you shared it, I apologize if I missed it. And then the second question, you mentioned that you're currently able to serve about 125 young people annually and about 150 families. And can you speak to if this new site will allow you to expand and to what magnitude, both serving families and young people?
Okay, so as it relates to, I think you asked about the fundraising. So being able to move through this has been with the help of a capital campaign consultant that we've enlisted called Mission Advancement. They worked on projects like this in Chicago. They're actually housed in Texas, but they worked on other projects that you all have approved. And so they've helped us to look at our current donor base, as well as they're going to help us to research other grant opportunities, et cetera. And so we have a board meeting August 27th where they will share all of this with our board, and so then our board can be empowered to also go out and help with the fundraising effort too. So they have been the catalyst in helping direct us for something of this magnitude. And so I have to give the credit there with their support, because we haven't done a project of this magnitude. And then as it relates to the increased capacity, so we actually serve 125 kids average a week through our elementary, middle school, and high school programming. And then we serve about 200 families. There's some overlap. Some of those children are part of those families. But we have a program called Familyhood. And so Familyhood actually provides cohort training for parents, curriculum around raising highly capable kids, habits of effective parenting. We do family field trips, family camping. Right now we're doing a summer series
where, we provide a meal and we're doing art through, art for mental health. And so, families get to come together and work on, art projects, and our clinician at the same time is really giving a group session. So going forward, if we had the community center, when I said we can go from 125 young people potentially to 400, because we will have an athletic facility, right? So there are coaches in the community who said they have no place to train, young people. Even looking at that gym and from a multi-purpose perspective of being able to maybe train and run drills with track inside. Not just basketball, but trying to really make it multi-purpose, volleyball, indoor, soccer, drills and stuff like that. And so we figured, there would be a lot more kids that would come through that part of, the programming. And then we'll have on the second floor some programming rooms dedicated towards certain things, like an art room. So we really want to introduce young people, to art, right? Different forms of art. And so we're just looking at with being able to have these programming rooms and more space, we could offer, more programming, so we can get more kids in based on things that they're interested in.
Got it. And then the last question was around timeline for construction, assuming the fundraise.
That's the moving goalpost. So, well, maybe Dave might be better at this because it keeps moving, but at one point the goal was, to break ground by year end, right? And then 18 months from there, right, to move. But I know based on the timing of meetings like this, we have to, fall in line with those schedules. So Dave, you wanna?
Yeah, I would just say, I'm sorry. Dave, you're going to see it. So I would say, our goal is to close by the end of the year. I think part of that is contingent on, getting, commitment from the city for the financing on the city side. So just kind of playing that out, that'll have to go to CDC and then city council. So that's probably 2 to 3 months right there. And then the other piece is contingent on the actual allocation of the new markets. So the new markets next round is going to come out in about a month here, and so we're lining this up for an allocation part of this fall round. So goal remains end of the year with an opening in early 26.
Thank you. Did that answer all of your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Brooks, followed by Commissioner Galakis.
A project of this scale is very complex, right? And to ensure that community voice is incorporated, both wants and needs. Kudos to you all for doing that, because I heard on every aspect of the program, you said that the community wanted this, the community needed this, and you said when. So hats off to you, Kimberly and Sunshine Gospel Ministries, for ensuring that you incorporate community into every aspect of this project. Commissioner Boatwright asked a couple of questions that I had around financing. But one question I do have is around the operation. So which entity will operate the center?
So, the Sunshine Development Corporation will. And so the programming, that was the umbrella to combine Sunshine Gospel Ministries and Sunshine Enterprises for operating the programs. Yeah, so they'll be the oversight.
And is the CDC who operates your current facility?
No.
Okay, so you're creating a new kind of
Yeah,
structure.
a new one. So right now, Sunshine Enterprises and Sunshine Gospel Ministries, we actually house on the same campus. And we are running out of space. We have 3 or 4 people sharing one office, et cetera. So, yeah, so right now we are housed in the same place. And we want to continue that and do our programming, collectively, because there's so much overlap, right? Because we have connection with families based on dealing with, their children. And then in turn, those families can, in turn get maybe some of the skills they want if they want to venture out and become entrepreneurs. And then we're teaching that to our young people at the same time. So, yeah, it really is a really good synergy.
And then a question on the design. Did you do a parking study? I heard you said a traffic study. Did you do a parking study? And then could you talk a bit about what those findings expressed? I see it's 90 parking spaces. And then what was the rationale to put the parking up at MLK versus putting the parking in the rear and then shifting the more activated spaces to the MLK, which is, I understand It is certainly vehicular elements to it, but it also, you know, as you go down past Washington Park and continue even north on MLK, it is very pedestrian friendly. And so the question is, what was the rationale for putting parking there and kind of breaking up that pedestrian field by putting parking on MLK? So that's one question. Parking study is another. And then the third, still on the parking piece, in some of the line drawings, I was gonna say pencil drawings, but I don't wanna date myself too much. But in some of the line drawings, it appears that there's fencing. Can you talk about what that fencing is?
Yeah.
There?
There was a parking study conducted in developing and coming to that 90 parking space number based on the different programs and use of the building, and then in coordination with ALOA on the traffic study. So that's how we came to that number. In the location, I think we looked at various organizations on the site. Clearly, the building being the prominent feature at the corner was always the main intent. And I think as we were looking at the programming of the building extending out onto the site, it started to make more sense with this working through the building across the site east-west, and that pushed the parking more towards the south. And I think our intent to maintain the pedestrian experience on MLK was to move that parking lot entrance to the Calumet side. We're not cutting through the sidewalk there with vehicles coming in and out of the parking lot, making those turns onto MLK. It could be more of an obstruction. And then the fencing around the parking lot itself, we're going to meet the landscape ordinance with the buffer requirements and fencing to screen that, provide a little bit of protection and beautification. And then also just in terms of the programming of sunshine and the youth activities of the space, the outdoor active space is also fenced in. So we are looking at enhancing the design of that fence for a higher quality experience too, but just for the safety and activity of the youth and the users of the facility. You will have to enter through the lobby to access that outdoor space.
Well, I cannot think of a better thing to put on this location. This is such a wonderful project, and I'm really excited to see this coming up, especially, you know, we'll have a lot of connectivity to Washington Park, which is also really exciting. I can see, and these two community gardens. So I think that the sort of situation of the whole thing is it's just spot on. And as Kamina mentioned, all of your work with the community is fantastic. So I just wanted to really start out with that. I do have two questions, and they're mostly architecture focused, or sort of architecture focused. So one is if you could talk about the plantings that you're considering, and if you're looking at native plantings versus, you know, exotic species, things that are potentially invasive species as well. And then the second thing has to do with that. I mean, I really like the design of the building, and I like the way it brings people in. The thing that I was noticing is you can see all the way through that central spot there. And I didn't notice, or I noticed that you didn't necessarily include bird glass or any kind of fretting there. And if you can see through it, bird will think they can fly through it, and that seems sad.
Yeah.
Especially right next to the park and with everything that they're trying to accomplish. So those are my two questions.
So the first part with the landscaping, I think we're working with Engage Civil and Omni Ecosystems on the landscape design. So implementing native plants, low maintenance, looking at bioswales. We just got the geotech report, so we're looking at the infiltration rates of the soils on site. So kind of working through that design, but our goal is to have a lot of native plantings and really kind of be an enhancement or an extension of the building out onto the site. And then with the glazing, the front entry too, I don't think I touched on it. We're showing colored glazing as part of that entry too, to kind of mimic the louvers and add that playful element to the glass. We will be looking into the specifics of the glazing when we consult with Ujama, the manufacturer, on bird safety and bird control. So that may be incorporated into design as we move forward.
Hope you do.
Yeah.
Commissioner Brumfield?
You know, as someone who drives through this intersection several times a week for years, especially coming through Washington Park, I've always envisioned or asked myself, why isn't something here at this corner? And for those of you who haven't not gone through this intersection, particularly if you're coming through the park, it is a powerful corner. And I just really want to commend not just the architect, but of course, Sunshine Gospel, you know, you're doing the Lord's work literally for more than a century. It's fantastic to see you expanding your mission and actually claiming that what I think is a very powerful corner here for the community. A very good looking building. I know this is going to evolve, and I think very good questions have been asked by my fellow commissioners on the design, particularly Brass. I was thinking the same thing. But I do want to ask in terms of the landscape, which I thought was a very good point. Given the excitement that you're bringing to the building, into the site, and it's great to hear the activities that are gonna actually be, that are being considered and thought of in terms of what's happening in the landscape area. It would be good to see as the overall design matures, that landscape approach mature with it as well. Because I think that's just as important to the building as it is, to the community. And I'm also thinking about what this could do moving further west, going across the street to Calumet, going through more blocks. We all know there's a lot of vacant land here. Open space really counts and matters when we're talking about improving the quality, of the overall community, and also land values, where you may get some other people who may be interested in doing more infill development based on your mission and what you're doing. So I just want to congratulate you, commend you. That's a fantastic project, and I personally am finally glad to see something happening at that point. It's very sure.
Commissioner Estrada?
Thank you so much. I wanted to briefly, I love how serving on this commission is making me better at the job that I do personally. I love how particularly the projects that we've looked at today call me to come outside the bubble, the relatively insular space that I live my life in, and actually get out to the communities and the spaces that we're discussing. It's very meaningful to me. It's particularly meaningful because I know friends of mine 20 years ago at North Park University who volunteered at Sunshine Gospel. And I remember when I saw this on the agenda, I was like, what are we doing at 61st? I remember visiting your space over by Cabrini. So there's a lot that warms my heart to be a part of this moment right now with you, but also to see all of the intention in this project, calling it out, talking about how much community voice is represented in all of the spaces that we see here. I love when we see you talk about the 26, 6, and 48 goals here. You don't just put it as one bullet point on here. You talk about what are the steps that we're taking to make sure we meet those goals. Feels very meaningful. We have a lot of folks who come up here, and of course, development finance is complicated. And there's folks who come up and say, well, we're gonna finance it over the next 3, 4, 5 years. We're gonna figure it out. To have you talk about, okay, here's what the capital stack looks like. Here's how we're getting here. Very encouraging to me. When we also talk about, here's how people are gonna get here. Here's what the traffic study is. But for CDOT to put so much time and effort into improving the pedestrian, cyclist, driving experience of this space, very encouraging. The one thing that I had a question about, I'll also say, the way we've seen your space, but also that CTA training site that we looked at a couple months ago, causing me to really reconsider how concrete can be used as a interesting, creative building material. Again, improving how I do my job in the board. My one curiosity was with the open space, the green space behind the building here. It was very curious to me, particularly given the proximity to Washington Park, how you're thinking about the space. There's intention in everything else. And I feel like you touched on it, but could you talk more about how we hope to see that space utilized? I feel like, sir, you just said that this is a fenced open space that you will have to travel through the building access. Can you talk more about how we're envisioning the uses of that space?
Yes, definitely. So it will be more of a programmatic or reserved space. And so part of it will be fun. We've actually been talking to an organization called First Tee. There may be a small area for young kids to do a little golfing, to learn how to, tee off a little bit, right? Like I said, trying to bring things that are different that our community doesn't have. Right now, I think we kind of sketched it as basketball court and then a multi-purpose court. So that'll be back there for those types of activities, outdoor volleyball, et cetera. But the greenery will just be spaces that people can enjoy. And so our seniors can sit out and, talk and meet. You can take your food from the cafe out to, the green area and kind of sit uninterrupted. I would say, somewhat safe, right? A public park is different, right, than a green space that's private. And like I said, there'll be kind of an entertainment, stage, shell kind of place where, community residents can rent that space, right, to host a spoken word event or, some type of, community block party or something, so we're just looking for it to be as multi-purpose as possible, someplace that is beautiful, someplace that, for as much as, we can try to, like I said, keep it safe. Especially for our kids, as well, when they're outside playing, like we serve all these young people and these families, but when we have their kids without them present, we're responsible for their safety. And so we actually have had some issues where we had to close down our campus and things like that. Right now, being on 61st Street, a main throughway where we can't control, people getting off the bus and people hitting cars. And, it's just a lot. So we're looking forward to having a safe.
I want to add to the landscaping on the exterior too, that we've talked about a mixture of open space, but also pockets of seclusion. So I think your comment to develop the landscape and mature that design as we go. The first floor at the top right of the building on the first floor will be the offices for the trauma-informed care. So we position that intentionally so they have direct access to this outdoor space and want to create those areas of seclusion and respite for those people to come, not just to the offices, but to experience the grounds and the landscaping as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. It really feels like a privilege to be here today. Thank you.
Commissioner Tillman?
This is, as everyone has already stated, this is extremely exciting, and to hear about, the community garden, Washington Park Bank, and now, Washington Park, and now the community center, you're really creating this like nexus of energy and activity that is extremely exciting. I do want to, when you were talking about the activity that's going to happen within the open space, and it just sounded exciting and also fun. One of the things that I wonder about the architecture as it continues to evolve is, you're using these concrete panels at I'll call the back of the building, but the building really has it is active on all sides. So potentially, with that ability for some community art or something that activates that and really brings in the same energy that you have on these outside spaces, that brings a different type of activity to the building as well. I think you create that on the King Drive and the 60th Street spaces, but maybe, considering that on all sides as well, just because the energy and how you speak about the project is very exciting. And so I think that the architecture deserves to be that exciting as well. But, kudos to you and your team for just having this type of insight onto how to engage the community and develop for the community and the community's resources. So very great.
Any other commissioners wanting to make a comment or question? No, I do have a question just for my reference. Can you speak a little about how do kids apply for these activities, the cost to their families to participate in these after-school activities or programming that you're so actively offering?
So currently, all of our programs are free at no cost. And as it relates to, getting the word out, we just use community partners, like our chambers, will post when it's time to register for fall programming. We just had our big Play Street event, August 2nd, which was the culmination of summer camp, where people were able to register at that outdoor festival, as well as the Southeast Commission, HOA, we just kind of send it out to our partners. And so for the most part, it's the word of mouth. And now we end up with a waiting list,
So it's basically first come, first served.
It's first come, first served. And then we definitely fill in if there don't show.
Great, thank you. Okay, so if we don't have any more comments or questions, yes,
A
Commissioner Dowell?
minor, this is a minor comment.
Yeah,
I like the color that I see in the rendering. And I'm hopeful that your landscaping will reflect that same kind of palette. Because I think in the community, we don't get that feel in the city. And it has a calming effect. And so I really hope that you will think about that as you do your landscaping plan.
thank you, Commissioner. And Alderman Taylor is not here, but obviously it was stated that she's in full support of this project, so I
Yes.
just wanna.
Yes, we have letters of support, and we had to go through our automatic process of hosting 2 community meetings, and then they go into a community vote. And that was passed December 22nd, 2023.
Great, thank you. So with that, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion on this item. Do I have a motion on a proposed institutional plan development submitted by Sunshine Gospel Ministries and Sunshine Community Development Corporation for the property generally located at 345-79 East 60th Street and 6000-50 South Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, Jr., and also 6001-49 South Calumet Avenue, finding that it meets the requirements for approval?
So moved, Commissioner LaSpana.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner LaSpata. Do I have a second? Second. Second, Commissioner Boatright. Roll call vote. Commissioner Boatright? Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brumfield?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Carney?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Castañeda?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dowell?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Escareno, let the proxy vote for yes on this one. Commissioner Flores, yes. Commissioner Calakia?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner LaSpata?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Piñero?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Sicho Lopez?
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
So much, I feel like I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, this is.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next item today. The next item today is listed as B3, a proposed amendment to industrial plan development 1443 submitted by Green Era Educational NFP for the property generally located at 631 West 81st Street and 650 West 83rd Street. The applicant proposes to amend the boundaries of Plan Development 1443 to include an additional lot area directly north of the existing plan development site that will provide for an additional detention pond and secondary containment capacity. This is item 22492, and it's in the 6th ward. Yaya Eizaguirre will provide the context overview and present the proposed plan.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Jaya Eizaguirre. I am the urban designer for the Southeast region with the Department of Planning and Development. I'm here today to introduce an amendment to PD number 1443 at 631 West 81st Street and 650 West 83rd Street. The project is located in the Auburn Gresham community area and the 6th ward, represented by Alderman William Hall. The development team is Green Era Educational NFP. They have retained Terra Engineering as their design and engineering firm. Members of the development and design team appear here today for the purposes of establishing an amendment to the boundary of PD 1443. The boundary will expand the Green Era campus to include a detention basin. No further construction or expansion of the facility is being proposed at this time. As noted, the proposed PD amendment is located in the Auburn Gresham community area and neighborhood. Auburn Gresham has a total population of 46,468 people as of 2022, with a median age of 38 years. The neighborhood is primarily African American and mixed income, with a median household income of $41,000 a year. Residents of Auburn Gresham indicated that their primary needs and goals include, among other things, improved care of vacant and abandoned lots, as well as activities for children and young adults, both of which are addressed through Green Era's campus and expansion. The site for the proposed PD amendment is indicated here by the red box. It is located immediately east of the Rock Island Metro line and west of South Wallace Ave, between West 81st Street and West 83rd Street. It is separated from surrounding residential areas by commuter and freight rails. The 79th Street commercial corridor is located 2 blocks north of the site. The proposed plan development amendment seeks a change to the PD boundary to include the site to the north of the existing campus. Included in the zoning change from the site's existing designation of M32 to PD 1443 with an underlying M32 zoning. The surrounding zoning is primarily M12 and RS3. These aerial views show the fully completed Green Era campus, which includes an anaerobic digester facility, visitor center, urban agricultural area, and community area. The addition of the detention basin to the north will enable the anaerobic digester to become fully operational. The proposed amendment is aligned with the Auburn Gresham Quality of Life Plan from 2016 And its goal is to, first, create services that address critical issues important to vulnerable populations. Second, to support traditional and non-traditional educational opportunities. And third, to build a neighborhood culture of health integrated into existing classes and programs offered within the community. With that, I would like to turn it over to Matthew Ackerman, attorney for the applicant, and Erica Ali for the development team and the development design team.
Thank you, Jaya, and good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Plan Commission. Again, my name is Matthew Alley. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Ackerman LLP, with offices located at 71 South Wacker Drive. Along with my colleague Meg George, we represent the applicant in this matter, Green Era Educational NFP. I also want to introduce the project team. Joining me left is Erica Allen with Green Era. We also have Jason Feldman with Green Era in the box. Rick Vamos is our environmental consultant, and Chris Hutchinson is our traffic consultant on this matter. Before we get into the specifics of the PD amendment, we did just want to provide a little context as to Green Era's initial plan development approvals back in 2019 and what kind of led to the need for the current expansion. As mentioned in April of 2019, the Chicago City Council approved Industrial Plan Development 1443 to facilitate Green Era's proposal to construct an anaerobic digester facility, visitor center, urban agricultural area, and community area as their Green Era campus. Since the campus has begun to build out and become semi-operational, it's been identified that approximately half of the food waste that's coming to the site is coming in the form of liquid food waste. So as a result, the campus now needs to expand to accommodate some additional detention capacity, which is being required in order to obtain city and state permits for the full operation of the digester. One brief note, the image on this slide is the campus site plan that was approved by the city back in 2019, showing the layout of the current campus. As mentioned, the need to expand to the north, and so luckily Green Era was able to work with their adjacent neighbor and have an agreement to expand their planned development footprint to encompass an additional approximately 4.4 acres of site area. I think as Jaya mentioned, and critically to the scope of this proposal, Green Era has no plans to construct any new buildings or structures in this area. It's merely for the containment capacity necessary to operate the digester. And simply by adding in the additional PD site area does require that we amend the plan development to incorporate this new area. Briefly, our project timeline for this proposal, we did have the plan development ordinance and amendment was introduced at the July 17th meeting of the Chicago City Council. We did hold a community meeting back in April, which was required pursuant to the city's air quality ordinance. That meeting was well attended and had overwhelming support from the attendees. We did not walk away with any concerns nor requested modifications to the project as a result of any feedback that we received. Lastly, to note, pursuant to our community meeting, we did send out notice to nearby property owners on April 9th, notifying them of that meeting. This slide shows the site plan and landscape plan of the existing PD to the south, as well as the proposed PD expansion to the north, with really the called out detention overflow basin at the very southern end of the new area, surrounded by our maintenance access drive. As mentioned, the project did, based upon the amendment to the plan development as well as the proposed, but the use taking place at the existing PD site, the air quality ordinance was triggered. And so we did have to commission both a traffic impact study as well as an air quality impact study. The traffic impact study found that given that there's no new structure being proposed, that there are no new access driveways that will be needed, there's no structures, and so we don't foresee any additional employees that will be brought on as a result of this expansion. And so that's all to say, The traffic study found that no additional daily traffic would be generated as a result of this expansion. CDOT has reviewed and approved that study. Similarly, we had an air quality study that found, due to the lack of activity taking place, that this proposal would not create any exceedance for any pollutants or their corresponding averaging periods. CDPH has reviewed this and approved this study as well. Turning to stormwater management ordinance compliance. Again, with the expansion of the PD to the north to facilitate additional detention and no improvements or structures being proposed, the project will be subject to the rate and volume control requirements of the stormwater ordinance, which, and given the overall mission of Green Area and how they activate the property, will be done in a sustainable approach by leveraging at-grade storage to take advantage of evapotranspiration and infiltration, which would reduce the overall burden on the city's combined sewer system. Briefly on the sustainable development policy compliance. Back in 2019, when Green Area sought their initial plan development approvals, they satisfied the city's sustainable development policy at that time by garnering the 100 points necessary. Now with the proposed expansion, none of those features would be impacted, so those 100 points would remain. And by adding on some open space and the detention basin that will be made up with a semi-vegetated detention basin, we anticipate adding 2 additional sustainable elements that would bump up the points to potentially 125 with the PD amendment. Lastly, to touch upon the MBE and WBE goals for this project, back in 2019, Green Area similarly had utilization goals at that time of 24% for MBE and 4% for WBE. Based upon the city's Department of Housing audit that was conducted in February of 2022, the project was found to well exceed these goals. Green Area had obtained a 37.53 MBE level, as well as an 8.88 WBE utilization rate. Again, given the mere expansion without any structure improvements, Green Area does not anticipate any construction jobs or new jobs that would be created as a result of this proposed expansion, and that they would facilitate the needed work through their existing staff, which reflects Green Area's commitment to the city's M and WBE policy objectives going back to 2019. I'm going to turn it over to Erica to talk a little bit about Green Area broadly, their mission, as well as some of the community engagement efforts that they've been able to facilitate.
Thank you so much. So Green Area's mission is really to provide an opportunity to divert food waste from landfills to this facility, so that we're able to capture the methane that is naturally produced when organic matter breaks down. So right now, whenever we throw out our banana peels or kitchen scraps, and really food manufacturing produces a lot of kind of hidden waste, it's going to our landfills and our communities. We have a farm on the southeast side near some of the landfills, and you can smell the methane coming from the landfills. So many of you, do work on the south side, represent the south side. This is a major public health issue. So this project not only diverts that food waste, which is a climate change mitigation opportunity and something that we're already doing, it directly supports urban agriculture. So thinking of all of the depleted spaces that we heard about from Greater Englewood, gardens popping up, where do we get that soil from? Right now, a lot of the material is scraped off of farms. We had to actually, for this development, bring in soil because we're a little ahead of the game. So there wasn't really an opportunity for us to use our own digestate, which is compost. And I argue with folks about this because the materials that we're breaking down it's food waste. It's not what's going into the sewage system or anything else like that. It's specifically an agricultural project, which is new. And the fact that the campus, which I'm really excited to see so many other community development projects using this campus concept, we're able to really lean into the collective need to be able to accelerate the community's education around green initiatives, green jobs, and community intelligence around just things that we've always done. So to be able to build wealth in Auburn Gresham, to be able to be partnered with Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, there's no way we would have ever been able to do this project. Jason and I looked high and far throughout the city to find a space. So we were originally going to do this project in Bridgeport, but the site was $16 million plus cleanup, et cetera, et cetera. To be able to take a brownfield, to be able to it took us 3-4 years to be able to aggregate brownfield funding from the federal sources and some from the state, just to be able to have the collateral to build the economic profile, I'll say profile, to be able to get capital, to be able to create a stack that could build something of this magnitude. And the goal of this is not only to impact the environmental sustainability, livability, all of those opportunities that I think everybody's waking up from and understands that greenwashing is not enough. We actually need to take action, especially in a city that has so many natural resources. It's also a major economic driver. So and we've seen this in my 23 years of doing urban agriculture, and, you know, coming into just creating a farm, hiring youth, creating a safe space, adding a farm stand, bringing a mobile market, all of those kind of gardening things have really created the economic kind of environment. And our young people have hope. They're able to, their peers see what they're doing, elders see what they're doing, and it actually generates a lot of other economic opportunities. As was stated earlier today, this project for us was very difficult. It's a very difficult site to build on, very expensive to build on. A lot of challenges. I know how to do the farming part and all the community facing programs. So not that that's easy, but comparatively entering into green energy is a much bigger kind of project to initiate, but critically important for the South Side, especially within the community that had the first COVID death, where redlining was birthed, to be able to activate something of this scale. And the scale of it it's an impressive scale, and it needed to be economically, so it could pencil. And it was important for me as a leader and as somebody who loves the city and can see and her people, especially in communities where it just breaks your heart a little bit to see so many spaces that we could be growing and building in and having sustainable housing and just really safe, lush spaces, that if only we had this material to be able to remediate and transform lots. And when I first started the work with Growing Power and opening Growing Power Chicago's office in 2002, I had to bring this material down in a box truck from Milwaukee, literally. The same material now we're creating 40 yards a day we can pull. So that equals about 5 acres of growing space that we can convert. That needs this, and that's a drop in the bucket for all the people who are trying to grow, trying to transform spaces. So yeah, so that's what this project is. And it's technical, it's exciting for our young people. The fact that I think we've had 2,000 visitors from the community and people coming from all over the country and world to see this campus and what's coming. We'll eventually have a vertical farm, a nursery, a community market, education classroom space. We've done art. I'm so excited to see other developments, including the poured concrete. We left ours bare so that it could be covered with more mosaics, like you see here with the CDOT project that Norma Sanders and GHDC led with partners from Chicago Cares. So we did this as a way to also engage the community. So this took 2 summers ago. Everybody came out and helped break tiles, and from corporate volunteers to folks that would come through every Wednesday and help do the mosaics and also pick some collards and grow bags because we can't technically grow on the site yet. So just a really a big privilege to be able to usher this in, but also signifying the importance of having place-based developments that are innovative, this pushed a lot of departments to think differently and to kind of accelerate Chicago's position in the green economy globally as stewards of the world's water. I kind of look at our Great Lakes in that way, and that the fact that our our motto is city in a garden, to not be able to support that and to create economies and safety was something that Jason and I could not really walk away from. So just, appreciate this commission's support of approving the original PD and then this expansion, which was a requirement that we found out after we constructed. So just grateful to be able to present this and invite you all out to come and see what we're doing.
Great. Just two last points. Lastly, we do have a letter of support from Alderman Hall from the Sixth Ward on this matter. We've provided this to DPD and it should be in the project file. And finally, we do appreciate the Plan Commission's time and consideration and request your support in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. And to conclude, Jaya Sagira again from DPD. DPD has reviewed this proposal and determined that the amended use is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood's mix of industrial uses. The amendment proposes, the amendment meets the purpose and relevant criteria set forth in Chapter 17.8 of the zoning ordinance, and its adoption would not have any adverse impact on the public's health, safety, or welfare. The proposed amendment promotes economically beneficial development patterns that are compatible with the character of the existing neighborhood. The proposed amendment is also compatible with the character of the surrounding area in terms of uses. Copies of this application have been circulated to other city departments and agencies, and no comments have been received that have not been addressed. Please refer to my staff report for further details regarding this project and the plans identified here today. With these considerations, the Department of Planning and Development recommends this PD application be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards with passage recommended. Thank you.
Thank you. I just add a quick comment. I want to thank Erica. When we first took this in 2019, it was new. I had no idea. Jason had to spend a lot of time on the science end teaching what an anaerobic digester is. You don't go to any architectural planning classes and learn that. A lot of time on Wiki, a lot of time with Jason and his technical documents he provided staff. So we appreciate that. And sorry and thank you for your patience in getting through all the process. I know it's been a long process and your financing has taken you on weird turns and grants and stuff. So thank you for sticking with us and getting here today.
Thank you. We do have 3 speakers signed up to speak, so we'll start with those and then we'll go on to the commissioner's comments. First speaker, Laura Lynn Clausen, followed by Brandon Love and Carlos Nelson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Lynn Clausen, and I work with Urban Growers Collective as our Director of Program Operations. And we are a partner on the Anaerobic Digester Campus to lead and support the community programming that'll happen there. So the campus itself is anchored by the Anaerobic Digester, but also includes state-of-the-art greenhouses and a community center that will really serve as a hub for engagement, education, and innovation. As farmers in Chicago who helped to grow and develop and train and mentor next-gen growers too, this campus and the digester is so important for us so that we have that compost and that nutrient-dense fertility source to be able to grow healthy and safe food for our community. Last year at Urban Growers Collective, we grew over 20,000 pounds of produce. And this campus and the addition of that compost to be able to create more gardens and the greenhouses on it will allow us to increase that number exponentially and really support, again, the next kind of wave and development around urban ag within our communities. We also work really intentionally and deeply with teens here in Chicago. We've just wrapped up our summer program. Over 130 high schoolers worked with us at 3 different locations that we manage here in Chicago to learn and grow alongside us. And all of them came through a tour of the Green Area campus this summer and are so excited for the next phase of the development with the greenhouse and with the community center. They all it just clicks right away and they see themselves as part of this vision and they see their vision manifesting and really having that as a jewel within their community too, where their ideas and their expertise and their college and career pathways that they follow, they won't have to leave their community to be able to really apply their gifts in this way and through this space. So we're again super excited for that component as we're developing the campus. We also work quite a bit with workforce development and developing businesses that can spur from this campus as well. So we are been training the next kind of gen of more apprentices. Karen, who spoke on the last point as well, we're on Sunshine Ministries is in our apprenticeship program. And so this will allow us to expand the education, the innovation, the training and mentoring that happens on site. And we do it all intentionally with a focus of cooperative business development as well. So that we're focusing not just on creating more jobs, but really worker ownership and additional wealth creation through that way. So share all that as a pivot to say that we have big visions already for this campus. So this additional expansion will allow us not to have to shrink the vision for everything we have planned for this campus, but really be able to grow and continue to be just a space for learning, for gathering, and for innovation for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clausen. Next we have, Mr. Love.
Hey everyone, I'm Brendan Love. I'm also speaking as a representative of Urban Burrs Collective, as Director of Development Relations, and also a community member who believes in the potential and the necessity of community-led solutions like the Green Area Campus Project. Laurelyn already spoke to a little bit of the future visions and activations that we have planned for the Green Area Campus, and I also want to share some of the things that we've already activated within the Green Area Campus for making those things continue within the long term. We already passed out some of the materials that you can see for the vision of the Community Education Center and Urban Farming Campus that are still yet to be built. But even as we're developing those future assets on the campus, we've already activated research partnerships with institutions like the University of Illinois Chicago through a National Science Foundation grant to transform the culture around geoscience research and what that means in engaging universities and community-based partners like Urban Burrs Collective and Green Area Campus. In addition to the National Science Foundation grant, we have a historic partnership between Argonne National Laboratories, and this is historic because it's their first partnership with a community-based organization. And I think that, as you all have seen, just the size and scale of the Green Area Campus is an important part of acknowledging and also attributing so many of the innovations that come out of community members. This is really meaningful for me because I formerly was an intern for Urban Burrs Collective 6 years ago when I started out. Coming in, thinking I knew what was going on within food system development and was very much incorrect in that. And being able to see the intergenerational momentum that this project is creating, not only for the pathways that were created from leaders and long-standing residents within the communities, but also for youth, as Laura mentioned. Being able to showcase that these are resources and assets that are available in the community that can be used to address some of these long-term inequities is so important. But beyond that, also teaching folks how to engage in the various institutions that the campus is engaging within, such as like the food system, energy, and all those other allied fields is really important as well. And then beyond that, also changing the narratives of what is possible and within the South Side of Chicago.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Nelson.
Good morning, well,
Yeah.
good evening. I'm Carlos Nelson, I'm a resident. I also moonlight as the CEO of Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, a community-based organization that does comprehensive community development in Auburn Gresham and the surrounding communities. GAGDC, we're also the largest Class B equity investor in this project. So really excited to make that statement. There's a movement happening here in Auburn Gresham. Commissioner Boatwright mentioned early, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 hours ago when we first started, the uniqueness of these projects that are being presented, all Southside projects. These 3 projects that we've heard, the beautiful melody that was played by Anton Seals and Grow Greater Englewood, Kimberly and Sunshine, and now Erica and Green Area Campus. This movement that is happening, this movement of innovation, green technology, certainly in Auburn Gresham, access to high quality healthcare, jobs, urban agriculture. This is a movement that all of us should be proud to see. And I implore everyone to not only approve this plan development, but come out to Auburn Gresham and see the great things that are going on. The exciting thing about this economic development movement and the wealth building, it's being done by us, for us.
by the Urban Growers Collective, the Erica Allens, by the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporations, by the likes of Green Air Sustainability and others. Coming out to Auburn Gresham, thank you for your time. It's great to be here and this kind of this movement that we're all being a part of. And I appreciate your statement, because this has been a long process.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. We also have two more speakers signed up to speak. Mr. Craig Stevenson and also Mr. Jay Reedy.
Okay, sure. So my name is Craig Stevenson. I'm with Open Architecture Collaborative, but I'm lucky enough to have been collaborators with Erica and Anton since 2017. I'm from the south side of Chicago, Roseville area. So when I come into my first meeting in the Department of Planning, with all of the projects from the south side and doing community-based design work across the city. I do work over on the west side, south side, every day, hopping across the city, as Erica likes to say, weaving together sort of resources. I am so grateful to be able to speak on behalf of my friend, a leader who, when we get to talk at like 8 o'clock in the morning before you're in Springfield, or late when I get to stop by the farm, to see the visionary at work, to know that this is regional impactful work. No climate, no green work, it's only place-based local work. This work is transformative. And so giving people the opportunity to lead this work, to be legacy, impact, to show others that it's possible. I really believe that Chicago is on the forefront of this effort. And to keep doing this work together, I'm just grateful to be a part of this. As I say to everybody, I'm a part of the transition team. I think we're a part of the transition team, making these new models to bring it forward, to create greater futures for everyone. So I'm grateful to speak on behalf of my friend Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Flores and Commissioners. I'm Jay Reddy with Neighborscapes NFP, which is a nonprofit. If you remember all the way back to the first presentation, we house and employ young people in primarily in Englewood, but also in Auburn Gresham. And we're happy to be a part of the movement that Carlos described. One of the things that's coming up is we have an AmeriCorps Vista member that GHUDC recruited that we're helping to support, who's coming in off of Amtrak on Sunday from Duluth, Minnesota, to start working with the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation as a housing organizer for the neighborhood immediately surrounding the Healthy Lifestyle Hub and the Green Era facility in order to find the housing needs of the community and make sure that those needs can be met by all of these community partners. So I know the Plan Commission is concerned about the fabric of neighborhood, and it's incredible the way that Green Era has participated in that larger fabric with other organizations. So happy to witness on behalf in support of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I'll switch it over to the commissioners. I believe.
Yeah. I do have a question. I did see the reference, the digester reference to the compost, but I also see that there's a renewable energy component to it. What's the output of renewable energy?
The amount of energy, the methane?
Or what is it directly? Is it methane? What
It's
you're gonna
methane.
be
So,
putting into the?
yeah, any organic form, when it breaks down its food, releases methane, including you, all of us. So that methane, and that big tank that you can see in the image is being captured at the top, and then it gets sort of siphoned off, and then it goes through some filtration, and then gets pushed into the pipeline. So just the same way that if you have solar panels on your house, that it goes into the grid. So that's how the gas is captured. It is just it's the same gas that if we had a big pile of our food waste sitting in this room, if we left it here long enough, this room would be filled with methane. So that was my earlier point around the importance of diverting that food waste away from our landfills into facilities like this so that we have a circular ecosystem, which also reflects circular economics. And then the amount of gas we produce, and Jason Feldman.
Sure. Yeah, great question. So yeah, so the gas comes off, we compress it, we inject it into the natural gas grid. So we're using existing infrastructure to actually decarbonize the gas grid. And when we inject in this biogas that we're creating is actually called renewable natural gas. Because it's made from, food that's already out there that would be breaking down. It wasn't grown for our facility. This is something that, would otherwise be going to a landfill. So it's actually a carbon negative form of renewable natural gas. So it's actually working to decarbonize the grid. And at full capacity, it would produce about 150,000 MMBTU. Converting that into sort of, what that means, it could heat probably about 1,500 to 2,000 homes.
And is the site connected to the grid, or are you trucking it out of the?
We are directly connected to the grid. So just like every house is connected to the grid and you pull off gas to boil your noodles, we're actually pushing on that gas instead. So actually decarbonizing the people's gas.
Very good, thank you.
Commissioner Lozada?
Thank you so much. I don't take my schedule to remember because the site looks so familiar. You actually had some of us out to visit through BOMA back in 2022. And I remember being able to tour the site, knock on the side of what was at the time these massive empty tanks. So it's fascinating to learn about the work now. I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't put in a plug for the city of Chicago's composting food scraps pilot.
We would love that food to come to us, which I spoke on NPR about. Okay, I know you're skipping us, but we would love to not have that methane released into the atmosphere.
So let's have that conversation offline.
Great.
Let's connect on that, because I love the fact in this city that this work is already happening in a pilot phase, but at these dropout sites across the city, over 100 tons of food waste has already been diverted from our landfills. It's making me glad to be raising my daughter differently than I was raised, that she knows that our food waste doesn't just go in the trash, that there's a separate container in our house for that we're doing things differently. So let's follow up on that work together, because I'm really excited for the movement and for the direction that we're taking the city in, and for the work that Green Ever Campus has as part of it. I did have one question, because you mentioned it so apart. All of this is directed around the purpose that a large proportion of the waste that you're receiving is liquid. I have a hunch about that liquid because I know what the bottom of our container, you know where I'm going.
Same thing.
It looks and feels like when we're dropping it off, but could you elaborate on the type of waste that you're receiving?
I actually don't think the majority of what we receive right now is liquids. It's mostly vegetable waste and food manufacturing.
Typically off-spec, expired.
Oh,
Yeah, stuff that would, from warehouses, if it's spoiled, from food banks, we get a lot of cans from food banks.
Yes.
So just being able to support food banks with, the fact that, dented can, they can't distribute that, or just food that comes in that's not edible, or from all the rescue programs, now that food can be responsibly digested and then returned back to growing more food. But the profile for this project is to be able to modify whatever waste stream there's a lot of, that we're able to accept that. So we wanted to have as much flexibility with this facility. So I know Jason really lives and breathes that part of the campus, so you're going to speak a little bit about some of the
Expired sodas, expired coffee drinks, a lot of energy drinks and things like that have expiration. So it's really a natural biological process. So just like when you chew food, you swallow, it becomes a pumpable slurry. It's the same thing. So that's
all slurry.
It's all slurry. It's mostly water.
I really appreciate it. Noah, would you mind making an email introduction offline? Sure. Thank you so much.
Okay, also, it just inspired me. There's always so much, it's hard for me to kind of distill all these different things in these short amounts of time that we have. We worked with Simeon Career Academy, which is a trade high school, literally across, there's a little scrap metal thing that kind of looms over our site and over the high school. But students helped us design the phase 2, which is all of the urban ag and education components and job training components of the campus. And we have resources from two funders, BP and Navistar, to go into schools and to educate, go to community centers, and really start talking about the importance of the separation. What makes this different than I think earlier challenges with the city's recycling programs is that it was really abstract, and it took forever for the south side and the west side to get recycling, which is a thing. to be able to like kick this off with folks knowing, oh, when I make this effort, it's actually going not into a landfill or being greenwashed in some way, that I know it's going back. I can come and get material and grow my flowers, grow my collards, grow my peppers. You know, do whatever I need to do to have safe, nutritionally dense fertility, material to grow in, soil to grow in. And to be able to educate and share information in a variety of venues, including just activating small entrepreneurs to do microhauling, because it's also education, is a big part of our upcoming work as well. So I appreciate that.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
Just a quick comment.
Right, followed by Commissioner.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I mean, I know that this is just to kind of adjust the PD, but I want to say I was really impressed to see you all's MBEWB commitment that was on the screen in bold. It just speaks to your commitment to get it right and to engage not just community, not just youth, but even contractors to ensure that we reflect the community in a really thoughtful way. I wanted to just acknowledge that, but also just say on record how excited I am to see and review and ultimately approve your next phase, because you're doing some amazing work. You, Jason, and the entire team, and it's so refreshing to see it done right here in our city. So thank you for your commitment and thank you for you all's just dedication and for important projects like this and educating us on the important work that feels so scientific, but breaking it down in a way that we understand it, we can appreciate it, and then support it in a thoughtful way.
Commissioner Reyes?
Yeah, I mean, all of these presentations have been amazing, and I'm just like, where is the city in terms of the house, single households, the compost? Because I know that if you live in Evanston, you pay and a private company comes and get your food, garbage or I don't know. So how can we all be part of this? Because truly, this is renewable energy, right? It's exactly what we've been talking about, going into 100% affordable rental housing, electrical buildings now, right? So I think that there's gotta be, I know I recycle in my home, I live in Pilsen, and I know not everybody does. It makes me sad when I see the blue containers outside full of regular garbage, but we gotta look into how is it possible for the city to begin to do compost? Because this is another opportunity where truly each one of us is going to reduce the amount of landfill that we have, and then create this level of energy that is healthy energy, right? So we gotta be able to figure it out. I have no idea where the city is with that, but I think we need to find out and start pushing for that.
If I may, for a lot of reasons, streets and sanitation isn't a department that serves on the plan commission, but we're further along on this work than you might think, particularly from where we were 4 years ago. It is a work in progress. But the work that we funded last year towards composting pilot is beginning to yield fruit. And I know that there are meaningful ways of moving that forward. Chris Sauvé, particularly on Commissioner Staller's team, is a visionary for where we can take the city. So a really good person to reach out to learn more.
If you could specify where the pilot is taking place?
Across the city, that's
Really?
one of the marvelous things is that we didn't just start this in one neighborhood.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Well, I'm glad to be here talking about it.
It's not widely
We have,
visible throughout the
yes,
city.
it is at about 17 to 20 drop-off sites across the city currently. We do have, I know, north of 2,000, 3,000 Chicago households who are actively participating in this pilot. Currently, it's a drop-off program, so there is a little bit of hiking involved, where you're taking your container, you're bringing it to a streets and sanitation, public facility, and dropping off on a regular basis. But I know that they have plans to hopefully expand towards closer to what Oak Park and Evanston are already doing.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna add to that, that most of those sites are in ward yards within the impacted areas, and there are also other public facilities, so they've been approved at, namely libraries. So they have specially designated drop-off
Areas.
Correct.
Okay.
If you just Google Chicago food scraps drop off, you find all the information.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? No?
Chairman, just to address all of these,
Yep.
introductions made, it's in your inbox.
Thank you, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, and we do have a letter of support from Alderman Hall, right? I have that on my notes. So if there are no more further questions or comments, we'll go ahead and ask for a motion on this item. So, yeah, I know everybody's excited. Do I have a motion on a proposed amendment to industrial plan development 1443 submitted by Green Era Educational NFP for the property generally located at 631 West 81st Street and 650 West 83rd Street, finding that it meets the requirements for approval? Motion by Commissioner Reyes, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Piñeiro. Roll call vote. Commissioner Boatright?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brumfield?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Carney?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Castañeda?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dowell?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Escareno mentioned leaving a proxy vote.
She
She can't.
She's not here.
Okay.
I explained it.
Okay, then no. Commissioner Flores, yes. Commissioner Caraquia?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lasfara?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Piñeiro?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Sicha Lopez?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, 2 more items on the agenda. Let's start. The next item today is listed as E4. A proposed zoning map amendment to plan development 1135 submitted by the Chicago Housing Authority for the property generally located at 4301 South Federal Street, 4300-4452 and 4301-4453 South Dearborn Street, and 4330-4452 South State Street. The applicant seeks to adjust the south boundary of PD 1135 from its current location, approximately 50 feet south of West 45th Street to West 45th Street. 45th Street was not dedicated when PD 1135 was originally approved. The proposed adjustment will correct the south boundary pursuant to the build conditions. No additional changes are proposed to PD 1135. This is item 22323, and this is in the 3rd ward. Justin Peterson will provide the context overview and present the proposed plan.
Chairwoman, members of the commission, My name is Justin Peterson. I'm an architect and city planner in the Southeast region with the Department of Planning and Development. And I'm here today to introduce the last two items. The first is this proposed amendment to Plan Development 1135 in the Grand Boulevard community in Third Ward, represented by Chairwoman Pat Dowell. The proposed amendment falls within the 47th and State TIF District. The applicant is the Chicago Housing Authority. Their attorney, Steve Friedland of Applegate Thornton Thompson, is here to present the project.
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Friedland with Applegate and Thornton Thompson. I think we go to the next slide. This is a project of Chicago Housing Authority. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our team. It's the same team for the next proposal. This one just whets your appetite for the big proposal. This is a simple cleanup. From CHA, Alon Curry is here. My client is actually the Brinshaw Michaels team, which are partnering with CHA and have partnered with CHA for a number of years. From Michaels Development, Andrea Keeney is here, and from Brinshaw Development, Peter Levovey is here. And down here at the podium, we've got both of our architects for the next project, Matthew McCrane with LBVA Architects and Tanisha Pointer with Brook Architects. This project, this proposal is simply to correct a mistake that was made in 2013 when PD 1135 was passed. When PD 1135 was proposed, its northern boundary was 43rd Street, and 43rd Street exists, but it's existed. But the southern boundary, which was 45th Street, had been vacated by CHA many years ago as part of the Robert Taylor homes. And if you really go to the next slide, I think you can see the entire PD 1135. The intent was that the south boundary, which is off to your left, would be the center line of 45th Place, which makes sense. The measurement of that, go to the next slide, I think we can walk it through. The PD called out 1,271 feet south of 43rd Place. And it turns out that is 10 feet further south than 45th Street. So the next proposal that you're going to see, which is on this drawing where it says proposed new PD, that is your next matter. The north 10 feet of that site is actually in PD 1135. So the request is simply to amend PD 1135, and now, since 45th Place exists, simply say that its southern boundary is 45th Place. So that's the whole purpose of this first act.
Very straightforward. Do we need to wrap it up? Are we?
I think that's it. You know, we could, I don't know if you want to take all questions on both, or however you want to.
We can,
I can
yes,
make
we can
the
do it separately to go
CPD.
into the details of the next one. So with that, I think, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion on this
Excuse
item.
me, Chairwoman, just let Justin.
Yeah, I can-
Okay, wrap up.
Yeah, just for due diligence. So again, Justin Peterson, DPD has reviewed this proposal and determined that the amendment is appropriate and necessary under 1713 of the zoning ordinance due to changes in the character of the surrounding area and public facility capacity. The amendment meets criteria of chapter 17.8 of the zoning ordinance that encourages unified planning and development. The amendment will not have any adverse impact on public health or safety or welfare. Copies of this have been circulated to other city departments. And please refer to the staff report for additional details. With these considerations, the Department of Planning and Development recommends that the PD amendment application be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks, and Building Standards with passage recommended. Again, Alderman Pat Dowell is here and has provided a letter of support as well.
Thank you, and I do have a recusal provision on this item. So if there are no questions or comments on this part, we'll go ahead and ask for a motion. Do I have a motion on a proposed zoning map amendment to Plan Development 1135 submitted by the Chicago Housing Authority for the property generally located at 4301 South Federal Street, 4300-4452, and 4301-4453 South Dearborn Street, and 4330-4452 South State Street, finding that it meets the requirements for approval?
So
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Caraquia. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Lyons. Okay, roll call vote on this one. Commissioner Boatright?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brumfield?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Carney?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Castañeda?
Yes.
Thank you. I have a recusal for Commissioner Dow on this one. Commissioner Flores? Yes. Commissioner Caraquia?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Lastada? Stepped away. Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Pinedo has stepped away. Yes, Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Sicha Lopez?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
Thank you. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. No, okay. Motion passes. And we'll go on to the next. So the next item today is listed as D5, a proposed plan development submitted by the Chicago Housing Authority for the property generally located at 4500 -4556 South State Street and 1 through 21 West 45th Street. The applicant seeks a zoning change from RT-4 to B2-3. And then to establish a residential business plan development. The subject property is currently vacant and unimproved. The applicant proposes to develop the property with a 4-story multifamily residential building with 40 residential units and ground floor retail space and a 3-story multifamily residential building with 12 residential units. The project will provide a total of 47 accessory vehicular parking spaces. The proposed FAR is 1.6. This is item 22105, and this is in the 3rd Ward. Justin Peterson will provide the context overview and present the proposal.
Gentlemen, and again, members of the commission, Justin Peterson, again, with the Southeast Region of the Department of Planning and Development. Here to introduce Legend South. This is a proposed plan development again in the Grand Boulevard community area in the 3rd Ward, represented by Alfred Patel. Also again in the 47th and State TIF District. The development team, BMT ILC, is a joint venture between Brenshaw Development and Michael's organization. They retain Land Baker and Brook Architecture as their architects. Members of the development and design team are here, as Steve already mentioned, to appear and present the project and answer any questions. The site for the proposed PD in Grand Boulevard in Bronzeville, of course, Bronzeville was the primary destination for the migration. It's still the historic part of Chicago's African American community and culture. In the mid-20th century, Bronzeville was home to more than 80,000 people. But mid-century redlining, urban renewal, and divestment reduced the population by 2/3 by the end of the 20th century. The neighborhood is now seeing modest growth and significant infill housing development. Bronzeville is primarily African American, increasingly mixed income. While 30% of the population has an income over 75,000, more than 35% of households still make less than 25,000. Approximately 1/3 of the neighborhood residents don't have access to a car, primarily walk, bike, or take public transit. And the proposed PD development here will continue rebuilding Bronzeville's affordable housing stock in a transit served location. The planning context here is really the CHA's plan for transformation, which is rebuilding mixed income housing and at a human scale on the former side of the Robert Taylor homes and other public housing sites. It's also framed by the 47th and State TIF District Plan, which again calls for investment in developing and promoting housing, transit, and quality of life. Oops. Legend South is the 3rd phase of redevelopment, former site of the Robert Taylor homes, demolished in 2007. The current development consists of 2 buildings, a 4-story double-loaded corridor building with 40 residential units, amenity space, and approximately 4,000 square feet of ground floor retail space, a 3-story walk-up building with 12 residential units. And the corridor building will also front a new public plaza at the corner of 45th and South State. In total, the project will provide 52 units, 47 parking spaces, and 60 bike parking spaces. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Steve Friedland.
Yeah. So, is it just the wheel? Or it's the,
You want to actually click it, I think.
There we go. Thank you. Once again, Steve Friedman with Applegate and Thorne Thompson. This is the latest phase of CHA's redevelopment of the Robert Taylor homes. And Brinshaw and Michaels, who have teamed up to redevelop the site with CHA, have been together with CHA throughout all of the redevelopment of Robert Taylor. This slide here on your left shows what the Robert Taylor homes looked like in 1990, housing that went from Pershing all the way down south. That was demolished in the early 2000s. And what has been built since is shown on the right-hand slide. There have been basically 6 phases of the redevelopment. About 618 units have been developed, 296 of those being CHA replacement units. And the development has been going from north to south. So where you see on the drawing here, Future Legends A3, that's the site that we're talking about right now. Why am I not doing well here?
Excellent. Okay, let's do that.
Let's just do that. Thank you. Okay. Site context for transit. This is a transit-rich location. It's a transit-oriented site. We are within the site distances to the Red Line stop, and State Street obviously has a bus line as well. We're also quite close to the Green Line and other bus lines on 43rd and 47th Street. And what am I doing wrong this time?
That's the idea of Pendleton Park, by the way, bus lines long gone, just so you know.
That's right. I broke the city.
Now this is working.
Okay, and you're just.
Yeah.
Okay. General, a sense of services that are within the location of the project. You know, there is a series of shopping and entertainment and cultural type uses. I would note that, and you'll see this later in our slides, this project is going to include the commercial space, about 3,750 square feet, almost 4,000 square feet of commercial space. So that will add to the growing availability of commercial uses in the area. I'm gonna let you move because I'm clearly not moving it along. Land use. The site is located along State Street, and as you probably know, along State Street, there's many institutional, educational, religious uses. There's existing residential neighborhoods to the east of the site, and then you've got the Dan Ryan Expressway running along to the west. This project has been around for some time. Obviously, the redevelopment of Robert Taylor Homes has been around for some time. This gives you a sense of a smattering of all of the community involvement and working group meetings that were done with Alderman Dowell, with CHA, and with Brinshaw Michaels over the years. COVID put a little bit of a curveball in this project and slowed it down a bit, but there's been a lot of public discussion and public involvement to get us to this point. Yeah. So the site context, let's just give, we wanted to show how the proposal that you're about to see sort of fits into the context of the neighborhood. There are some 3- and 4-story buildings that have been developed and that exist around this site. A couple of 5-story buildings. What we're going to be showing you today is a 4-story apartment building and a 3-story walk-up, which we think matches the site context quite well. There we go. This is the PD. The PD, the first development will be this sub-area A that you see. There are 2 other sub-areas in the planned development, sub-area B2 and B1, which will be later phases of housing. It is also expected that there will be a dedication of Dearborn and 46th Street. Those were vacated years ago when CHA developed Robert Taylor Homes. Those would be rededicated. I do want to be clear that our plan development will state that any of that dedication or a rededication of those streets will require CDOT approval. And that will be in our plan development documents and require that we go back to CDOT before we do any of that dedication. With that, I'm gonna hand it over to Matthew McCrane from LBBA to start to talk about the design.
Hi, good afternoon.
See how well we do here. Please.
So this is the site plan for sub area A. As was discussed, we have 2 buildings, a 40-unit corridor building and a 12-unit walk-up building. We are served by a private alley accessed off of 45th Street with the 47 parking spaces, the public plaza to the north, and then planting and parking.
It's like kind of try.
Whoever has the magic touch can just keep
we
moving the slides.
Just say nice stuff.
Take what our mouse is doing. Maybe that's why.
Okay, so in terms of transportation and site, all emergency access to both buildings will be off of State Street. Service and trash would happen on the backside of the alley, that's on the west side. Parking on the west side off of the alley. And then there is a bike, there's exterior bike parking and interior bike room, as well as a bus stop on site. In terms of open space, as we discussed earlier, there's a hardscape plaza that circles around some legacy trees, and you'll see that in some later renderings. And then more decorative planting along the State Street streetscape and near building entrances. In terms of stormwater, we are infiltrating our stormwater on site underneath the parking with permeable paving both in the alley and in the parking spaces. And then it leads over a little bit into that plaza space as well. All right, so in terms of building massing, again, the 4-story building is to the north to allow for solar access to the 3-story building to the south. We have a pretty articulated building facade along State Street so that that's a welcoming and active pedestrian zone. We also have an extended gesture on that 4-story building that kind of protrudes out to embrace that plaza to the north. And then on the 4-story building, we have engaged townhomes at grade that are 2 stories that also project out from the main mass of the building. The walk-up building has a nice courtyard, so it's full public. Here's just a quick look at the unit mix of the 52 units. We have 1s, 2s, and 3-bedroom units. Roughly 40% of those are CHA units, 40% being tax credit units, and 20% being market rate. So we'll kind of quickly go through the 4-story building. First floor of the 4-story building, the purple on the right is the commercial space. Again, roughly 3,700 square feet. Green is community and amenity space. So we've got a community room, fitness room, and bike room. Blue is the management and office suite. And then the engaged townhomes are in that kind of salmon color to the left. And north is to the right on this slide. So then on upper floors, second, third, and fourth, we have a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. Again, on the second floor, that's the second floor of the engaged townhomes, and then otherwise the rest of the units are elevator served. So in terms of materials and context, adjacent properties utilize a lot of brick. Large window openings, there's aluminum storefront in public areas, and then there's also the use of fiber cement and dark projected bays. So that's something that we're continuing with the expression of this building. So that's really tiny to see all the detail there, but again, just kind of looking back at the previous slide, you can see the different tones of brick, the projected bays of the fiber cement panel. We also have some accent colors that you'll see in future renderings that kind of give a little more liveliness to the facade. So here's some elevations. East elevation, that's the State Street side. So you can kind of see that big mass of the building broken down by those articulated bays. And then the different proportions of the different materials. So we've got the brick, the fiber cement, the storefront on grade to activate the pedestrian zone, and then those accent colors to bring it all together. On the west side, this is the alley side. This will be, you can see mostly brick, some of that fiber cement and articulated bays, and then a less pronounced entrance and a mural. So north and south. North is in proximity to that plaza. So we have that projected bay that sticks out with a nice balcony. And then on the south, that's immediately adjacent to the 3-story walk-up building. And again, you can kind of see that interplay of the different materials. So here's a look at the existing context and the future context at 45th Street. So you can see those legacy trees that become the anchor of that plaza, plus the new 4-story building kind of reaching out both to State Street and to the new plaza area. So this is a view from the back side. You can see the alley, the mural, the plaza, and then that projected bay that reaches out. And this is a look from the southwest, looking north. So you can see those accent colors kind of bringing some vibrancy to the streetscape. And you can also see the interplay of those volumes breaking up the big mass of what's a pretty long building.
Right, so it's Tanisha Point, I work Brook Architecture, and we designed the 3-story walk-up building here. And so again, pulling some of the materials from the surrounding area using brick and fiber cement panels here. What we wanted to do was bring some verticality to this building, being adjacent to 4-story. So what we did was highlighted the corner living room areas with these white vertical elements. And also having windows at the corners to give the residents in their living rooms the most views out, the more light, most light in. Also, you'll see that vertical element at the center, the courtyard area, which also highlights the living room areas. Here's a view just looking a little bit more at the entranceways to the building. So on the right and on the left, you have your entrance to the buildings. The building is split up in half, as we'll see on the floor plans. You have 2 units on the right and 2 units on the left. And so these are the 2 entrances to those units. Here's the west elevation. Again, we have the brick and fiber cement panels wrapping around the rear. And then we have exterior wood stairs that give you a second exit out of the units for each floors. Oh, can you go back one more? I'm sorry. One more thing I wanted to point out was that we have the trees along the rear to provide some type of screening from and a buffer between the parking areas and the level 1 units there. So here's a plan just showing the layout. So we have all 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom units for each floor. And they pretty much stack up the building. So you have access to through the stairwells to the front of each unit. And then you have again access to the exterior stairs on the rear of each unit. And here's the elevations, just again, looking at the materials and the verticality of these vertical elements for this building. And this is your north, south, and courtyard views. Here's just a detail, section detail, looking at the wall sections for this building. We have fiber cement, rain screen with continuous insulation down through the foundation. And brick veneer wall again with insulation extending down continuously to the foundation. So how we're achieving the DPD sustainable development policy, we're achieving over 100 points. We're doing this through use of LEED. Before it looks like that we are well over our LEED silver goal. We're targeting about 67 points, which is more in the gold range. We're also looking at exceeding the stormwater ordinance by 25%, being electric vehicle ready. So we'll have the infrastructure in place day 1. 80% of our soil will be diverted, or soil-based diversion. And this is our target for these 100 points. And I'll hand it back over to Steve.
So we believe there's significant public benefits for this project. As Matthew stated, there's 52 units of housing, 42 of those are affordable. So it's a highly affordable development. There's great proximity to public transportation. The project will create a significant amount of jobs. There will be some new retail opportunities. The project will also meet, and we really believe likely exceed, the city's hiring goals for MB, WB, and Chicago residents. This is a team that has been together for a while, the CHA, Brinshaw, and Michaels, and they have done this successfully on other projects already. The project, even before construction has begun, has a significant group of ME and WB businesses that are involved, which are listed here. So they're confident that they will meet, and like I say, likely exceed those goals. With that, we'll hand it back to Justin, and we're happy to take any questions.
Steve. DPD has reviewed the proposal and determined that the project is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood's mix of residential, commercial, and institutional uses, and that it presents an opportunity to continue rebuilding the State Street corridor with affordable human scale housing. The department has concluded that the proposal is appropriate under Chapter 1713 of the zoning ordinance due to neighborhood growth and development trends. The project's uses, density, and scale are compatible with the character of the surrounding area and surrounding zoning districts. The project meets the criteria of Chapter 17(8) of the zoning ordinance, and its adoption will not have any adverse impacts on public health, safety, or welfare. The project is in strict compliance with the underlying FAR standards of B23 district. It promotes economically beneficial development patterns compatible with the existing neighborhood. It is pedestrian oriented and creates an active street front that will improve safe and attractive walking routes. It places service areas for dumpsters, loading, and mechanical equipment away from the street. Again, copies of this application have been circulated to other city departments and agencies, and no comments that have been received have not been addressed. Please refer again to my staff report for further details regarding the project. With these considerations, the Department of Planning and Development recommends the PD application be approved and forwarded to the City Council Committee on Zoning, Landmarks and Buildings as recommended. Again, Alderman Pat Ballard has provided a letter of support in this year as well.
Do the commissioners have any questions of the staff or the applicant on this item?
Question. You have on the west elevation, I noticed a small mural. That mural faces the alley, is that correct?
Yes.
Just curious on the rationale behind the mural facing the alley.
That's more, it's more of the private face of where people who are coming to the building, residents are parking on the alley side and not like the majority of people that are coming to the site that live there and are coming with their own vehicles will be coming from that west side.
Okay.
So that's kind of their front yard.
Got it. And then just a follow-up question to that. Are you all using local artists for that mural? Have you all already identified, or is it too early?
To be determined.
Okay.
Because we have suggestions for.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Brumfield?
Yeah, a few questions. The first one is just more out of curiosity. Notice that you pulled the building south, 45th off the corner and allowed for that parking space. It's not a criticism, but just kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about the reasoning and rationale behind that move.
Well, so like there are these really beautiful legacy trees that are on.
So you're preserving the trees.
That we wanted to preserve. And then also, with previous phases of the development, it is very much, buildings right to the property line and right to the street.
Right.
So this is an opportunity to kind of give a little breathing room between this phase and previous.
And preserving the trees. The other question I do have is for the private drive, something that you normally don't see mixed housing developers take on a private drive and manage that. Totally understand the logic today, but would there be some thinking down the line once there's a rededication of the additional streets? I see some head nodding yes.
Yes.
That's the
That
plan.
alley would
Yeah.
go back to being under control. of the
Yes,
city?
Commissioner, that is the plan. And obviously this would be in our conversations with CDOT about the rededications of Dearborn and 45th, but the plan would be to build out this private alley as public, to the standards of a public alley, so that when we do that dedication later on, it could become a public alley.
Got it. Thank you. And the last question I have was on the walk-up apartments, which I kind of appreciate kind of joining. It was kind of creative the way you kind of joined the two 6 flats and stacked them into 12 units. The decks, the wood decks, I assume those are meant to be for common space to share for residents?
Yeah, so we increased the size of the decks, so that there
Quite
is
big,
space, for each, unit or the tenants to have a space to lounge, on the rear.
Commissioner Brooks?
I'd just like to say a couple of comments. First of all, thank you, Andre Brumfield. You've obviously been very
Can you
interested.
state your name, please?
My name is Peter Levy from Brenshore Development. And I just want to state that Andre Brumfield worked with Brenshore Michaels on the very first phase of the corner redevelopment, doing the master plan, and we've now fulfilled the requirements of the Mother Skills Consent Decree, building out all the rental units there. So I want to just thank you and acknowledge the work that you did early on in that project. And I also want to mention a couple things about trees. There's a park just a little bit further north of there on State Street where we saved 11 trees at root. And we worked tirelessly with IEPA to make that happen. We're really glad that we did, and we're doing it again here. And the other thing is on the large decks, we have found that having private space for our tenants to eat outside, recreate, entertain, it has been a huge benefit. And we've often included these larger decks for the individual tenants so that they can do that. It's been an incredibly successful part of our mixed income development.
I appreciate that, Peter. Just one last comment. I just want to commend CHA, of course, the Alderman, of course, Brenshore Michaels. You guys have been at this a very long time. just appreciate, and I was actually saying this is arguably one of the toughest former CHA housing sites from a market standpoint. So just really appreciate all the work that you all have done collectively just to continue moving on to the next phases.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks.
Just a couple of questions. Do you mind going back to the AMI chart? I had a question about the 12 units for the low rise. So, what's the AMI? Are they all 60s for the 12 two-bedroom units?
They're not gonna be all tax credit units that, now, so all unit types are housed throughout all units. I can get you the specific unit mix on that.
Okay. And then from a presentation perspective on the design, I see in the building massing slide, you show both buildings next to each other. I didn't see any renderings that showed each of the two building types next to each other. And, when I was pulling up on my screen and trying to look at it split and trying to see how the architecture speaks to each other, and it's hard to tell. And see that I get a peek of the edge of the building here, but there's no, and maybe that was intentional to not ever show them side by side, but in reality they will be. And so it would have been good from a presentation perspective for us to be able to see both buildings side by side, because in reality they will be. And it's hard to see right now how the architecture speaks to each other. And I'm not suggesting that they need to be the same at all. CHA has a number of large sites, and it's very intentional and the right way in identifying different architects to bring forth diverse designs. But for us to look at this and really provide input and feedback, I think also seeing both buildings adjacent would have been helpful.
Understood and noted.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one comment. I just wanted to thank them for acknowledging in the presentation that we have a few follow-up items with them, and we look forward to working with your team to take care of those items. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to say that this is not as sexy as the other projects that we considered today, but affordable housing is definitely needed in the city of Chicago.
Yes.
So
Yes.
This is an important project. I just want to ask the development team, we don't have to discuss this today, but it just dawned on me because I just went to a back to school event down at the old Stateway Garden site. Where people can gather behind on that parking lot. Where are the gathering spaces for development? And spaces for young people who might just need to get outside. We don't have to answer that today, but I would like to look at that a little bit more.
We don't have an image to speak to it, but this is considered as a continuation of the previous phases of work.
Well, I live around there and the previous spaces of work don't have places for children to go either.
So Alderman Dow, Peter Leatherby again. There's a tot lot in Savoy Square on the other side of 45th Street that is a good place for kids to play. So it's, been part of that community building that's there since it was built in about 10 years ago.
And Peter, this is a further discussion we can have.
Sure.
Hi, I just was curious about the 1-for-1 parking in a transit-oriented location. Just curious about why the decision was made. Was that community driven or?
It's actually not 1-for-1 parking, it's 0.75 to 1 parking. So we did that based off our experience at other Legend properties. There's also some parking spaces that are allocated for the retail tenants. That's hopefully gonna be a community-based restaurant. We have a community partner on the Steel, Tory Barrett, that we have not mentioned yet. He's been working alongside us for the last 4 years on this project, so we anticipate that he's gonna be working with us to secure a restaurant for that space. And we'll have some dedicated parking for that as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Alderwoman, now, would you like to make any more comments?
No, I can't vote on this.
You can't vote, I know.
I, I'm glad to see this third phase of this project, happen. There's also a market rate component here that has not been discussed, but is in the plans for some housing, for sale housing. So it's just good to see the development coming together.
Thank you. So, with that, I think I'll go ahead and ask for a motion on this item. Do I have a motion on a proposed plan development submitted by the Chicago Housing Authority for the property generally located at 4500-4556 South State Street and 1 through 21 West 45th Street, finding that it meets the requirements for approval? So moved. Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Brooks, followed by Commissioner Boatright. Roll call vote. Commissioner Boatright? Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brumfield?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Carney?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Castañeda?
Yes.
Thank you. I have a recusal for Commissioner Dow on this one. Commissioner Flores? Yes. Commissioner Cadakia?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner La Espada is not here anymore. Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Piñero? Not here anymore. Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Reyes?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cicho Lopez?
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Tillman?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, this concludes this month's meeting of the Chicago Planning Commission. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. First and second, roll call vote. Vote right? Yes. Brooks?
Yes.
Thank you, Brumfield. Thank you, Carney. Thank you, Castañeda. Thank you, Dowell. Yes. Yes.
That's.
This month's meeting of the Chicago Plan Commission is now adjourned at 1:54. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, they're all sure.
Sarah, nice to meet you. But I would be confused. So exciting.
Yeah, well, it's.